Constellation is sponsored by BetterHelp, accessible and affordable online therapy that can help you right now. Learn more at betterhelp.com/constellation. While therapy is certainly on vogue as we speak and has been for a while, actually, there's a lot more to it than mere image management, and I speak from experience. If you keep an open mind, remain honest with yourself and your therapist, and put your shoulder into your life's problems, you can overcome them, learn how to manage your feelings, and live a happier, more productive, and more, sane life. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/constellation today. That's BETTERHELP.com/CONSTELLATION to get 10% off your first month of therapy sessions. Again, that's betterhelp.com/constellation for professional, effective, convenient, and affordable therapy that meets you where you are. Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined, as always, by my big brother, my big brother, Dagan Moriarty. Dagan, how are you today, my friend? Good to see you.
Big brother.
Big brothers.
Right before we got on, I saw one of those those really ugly centipede bugs downstairs in the kitchen. You know, it looks like the mini version of something Godzilla would fight. Yeah. Right? Horrifying. Like,
so the ones that look like they're like long porcupines almost.
That's true. They have their legs look like they have legs, but their legs also spread over their entire body. It's just, they're disgusting.
They're like those yellow creatures in Mario, like that long.
But much less adorable.
Right.
Much less adorable.
And yet we kill them with reckless abandon, don't we?
Helene's always on me. She's ridiculous with creatures, right? She's like Snow White. She picks up the giant praying mantis. She'll pick up those things and be like, no, they're good. They're beneficial. They kill the bad bugs.
People always say that
at home.
They do that.
That's what they say.
In fairness, right? What do you mean? That's what they say?
We don't see what goes on.
Yeah, they tell us a lot of things.
That's what
they want us to.
If you
believe.
interview the centipede, that's what it would say. I kill the bad bugs.
I know I'm ugly, but I kill the bad bugs.
What do you guys? I'm curious where you guys stand on this real quick. You know that I don't know if you guys have ever read about this, but it's entirely possible that we could eradicate mosquitoes. Have you guys ever read about this? That we know how to do it.
Wow.
That we can set little DNA bugs and basically ruin entire lines of mosquitoes if we wanted to. And they think about doing that in Africa and other places, but and basically eliminating them. But they're like, what will that do? You know, we don't know if we should do that. We could. We know how to do it.
It'll be all right.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine.
It'll be all right.
Yeah, sounds like that would go.
Eat about the mosquitoes.
I think if we there's so many animals that we've eradicated by accident. You know what I mean? And things are like, I don't know, hypothetically, polar bears are probably not all that long for this earth, and they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything to deserve that. Mosquitoes have done way, way worse than polar bears. So get rid of them. Fuck it, whatever. It'll be fine.
That's true.
We'll have fewer birds maybe in 100 years.
We'll probably have the most down extreme effect we could have possibly ever imagined, and humanity falls apart because of it.
Yeah, oxygen just goes
We should
away.
probably let malaria country weigh in on this. We can't have a barbecue, but there's countries in the world where mosquitoes are murderous.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we should probably let them weigh in. But this is exactly what I was getting at. I let the thing live, and I know it's going to come back and bite me in the ass. I know this thing is going to crawl across my foot later or something. That's why they're so stupid, because when you do kind of evoke mercy, they'll just come back and they'll just be a pain in the ass anyway.
Yeah, but they don't. They don't understand what mercy is.
You're working on a different level than that.
I tried to explain the concept of mercy to a caterpillar.
Where do you even begin?
Yeah, where do you even start? I don't know. I usually ignore them. Because I'm right now in kind of a basement setup. It's like an underground apartment. And there are those. I see those centipedes every now and again. They'll crawl across the floor, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" You know. But it's better than to me. It's better than roaches. Or like any number of other ants. Even ants are like way lower than roaches on the awful totem pole. But I'll still accept a centipede or a few occasionally on the ground. Or like to me, spiders are cool as long as they stay in their corners and stuff, and I don't see them. If I see a spider on the floor, it's over. You're gone.
Yo, you got to eradicate the spider.
But if you're to destroy him.
But if you're on the wall, if you're chilling, I had a spider in this room under the light switch. And his name was Kevin. I named him Kevin because he would stay there, but then at night I would get up and I would see he would be gone. I'd be like, that's smart. That's smart. You're on the prowl while I'm asleep, and you understand that if I catch you, I'll kill you.
What you didn't realize is he actually worked nights at Pathmark and was stocking the shelves.
I'm done.
Chris Raygun, how are you today, my friend? Good to see you.
I'm good. I'm just look, centipede. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Tim.
We spoke it into existence. There you go.
He
That's
jumped on
crazy.
a plane.
Yeah, he's just minding his own business.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm doing all right. It's just it's weird acclimating to the East Coast time wise because it's really difficult to explain how weird it is to like have to be bi-coastal in some way, but also like have the only people that you speak to and that are important to you are on both sides of the country at like maximum time differences. So like I'll have friends hit me up at like 3 a.m. here, be like, "You want to play some Halo or something?" I'm like, I guess. I mean, like, sure. But it's like, it really throws me off. It's a bizarre time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. When I moved from California back to the East Coast after 13 years, it took me probably 6 months to stop going to bed at like 6 or 7 in the morning. Just because that was what like my body was just there. I'd go to bed at 4 or 3 in California, and my schedule was fucked. That's why if you go and look, you'll see that I platinumed random ass games like Dragon Quest 11 at like 7 in the morning. Because I had just moved here and I couldn't sleep.
Yeah, you know what bothers me though is like every time I come here, I never had this association when I just lived here and was just here all the time. But now that I'm in LA and I come back, I always feel like when I'm in New York, I'm slightly in the future and I don't like it. Like I feel like I'm like speed running my life a little bit. It's like, no, I got to get back where I have like those 3 hours again. It's weird.
Kind of like the international date line and how New Zealand, I think, is the first country to get is one of the first major country to get New Year's. And it's like, yeah, okay, guys.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, sure. It's New Year. Okay.
Future.
Yeah, sure thing. New Year's Eve is midnight in New York City. Always has been, always will be. What I appreciated about that in California was that even in California, that was like when I'd go to parties, like you'd watch some
it'd be
fake,
like 9 p.m.
Right. And you'd watch some fake West Coast ball drop thing like that. Some other that they were doing on the other side, it was already over. And everyone would be like, no one cared at that point.
It is really funny how dominant that is.
That is true.
Because New Year's in New Zealand is like, you know, when E3 happens at 9, but there's like a pre-show at 8:30.
Yeah. Right. They're like, we're the first ones to see the sun in the new year. And I'm like, okay, whatever you say. Lord Cognito, good to see you, my friend.
Yo,
welcome to the show.
Good to be back. Good to be back, man. It's been a minute. I'm navigating a new stomach, so we got to see how this works.
How are you feeling?
It's been touch and go. So what it is Dagan appreciate this. It's kind of, remember Transformers the movie?
Of course.
Remember when the Galvatron turned Megatron, gave him a new body?
Yeah.
And then like anytime he would resist anything that what Unicron said, he'd be like, I accept your terms. That's me in the stomach. So the stomach is like, this is a new stomach. This is a new day. You shouldn't have had that. And I'm going to remind you what food you shouldn't have had. Wow. So that's the energy that I have. Like, okay, I'm learning. This food works. This food doesn't work. That kind of thing. So it's just a diet. It's a diet change.
So I'm missing some kind. You got a robot stomach?
Yeah, I got a. It's called the diverticulitis. That's called the stomach.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So I had to go to the ER, and then they diagnosed it immediately, and then it was a matter of now. Okay, you go from like a liquid diet, then you go to low fiber. and then kind of like get your stomach back. And then the eventual goal is high fiber, but sometimes you can't be too aggressive in getting to the high fiber. You have to learn what foods you can kind of agree with and disagree with, kind of thing. So it's been a learning experience, let's just say.
Yeah. I was talking to you a little bit privately when it was going on, and I was telling you I'd never had diverticulitis, but I've had, Dagan will know. I mean, I've had lifelong colon and stomach issues, like since I was a very little kid, fucking constantly. IBS, ulcers, polyps, all that kind of stuff. I've had more colonoscopies and endoscopies than like a normal 80-year-old person would have had probably at this point. And so I totally can sympathize with you. It's a horrible place to have and it's very scary to have pain there as well. Yeah. And I've had such bad stomach and colon pain in my past that I thought I was dying. And that I thought that there was like, I should probably, there have been a few times where I'm like, I maybe should call an ambulance. You know, when you kind of just ride it because you don't want to do it. And then, when it just goes away after a while. I have my own. Yeah. So like they come in and be like, I'm all right, boys. Yeah,
I call it powering through. I try to power through for like a week or two because my fear was I don't want to go to the ER. I was like, I just don't want to go. But yeah, I completely agree with you, Colin. That was literally my mindset. And after about a week and a half, I'm like, this is too much, bro. You got to go.
I've been powering through for about 20 years.
Yeah.
We'll go away any minute now.
Stomach.
Any minute now, it'll be gone.
Well, I'm glad you're well, Cog, or better on the mend. Welcome to the show. Thank you guys for being here. Now, I already went through this with Chris on the show on Sacred Symbols yesterday, but I just because Dagan and Cog are here, and Dagan already knows a little bit about this, but I've been so happy the last few days because, and Cog, I think you'll appreciate this, is that I got a bunch of carded G.I. Joes.
Ooh!
Oh! Now, do you remember seeing these on the shelf?
Hell yeah.
Now, this is the one thing I wanted to go into on our conversation is, remember how exciting this was?
Oh, bro.
That was everything.
That was everything.
That's the checklist.
Where I was telling Micah, like, I was so obsessed with the card backs on G.I. Joe that I knew the order of them. And still to this day, like, I'm like, oh yeah, there's Alley Viper in the bottom left corner. And I used to just obsess over this stuff.
That's
I loved
impressive.
it.
Yes.
I loved it.
I love that it has, what is it? The UPC one that you had the points and then you
the,
nail that in to get
point.
special edition, like Cobra Commander. Yeah, bro. That little point, that was so significant back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh, and the vehicles had a few more points.
Right, yeah, you got like 3 for a vehicle.
Right?
That's totally right. Yeah, and then you get all sorts of extra things. And but I dig, and Cog, I thought you'd appreciate this especially. You probably won't come through on my shitty camera, but the Toys R Us tag. This is a figure from 1990, $2.79.
It's iconic.
$2.79.
$2.79. Now an action figure is $20.
Thanks.
Of that scale.
Yeah, like the new the new GI Joes, which are 6 inches and really really nice, are $30.
It's ridiculous.
I remember
they're what is that, 1,000 times more?
Why are kids just playing video games? Why are kids just playing video games? Like it's such a such a shitty argument for that.
I remember when I was a kid, action figures were about. I remember specifically $7.99 or was like the general price for like a good Spider-Man toy or something.
Yeah,
or like
yeah,
a Dragon Ball figure, a Dragon Ball Z toy.
I remember at Walmart, Green Tag, Star Wars figures. So the Star Wars Power of the Force 2 guys that began in 95.
Yeah.
They were $3.99 at Walmart, $4.99 at Toys R Us, and then $6.99 at KB. But you'd buy them at KB because they always had rare ones. That's where I got like Princess Leia and Lando and all the ones you couldn't find anywhere.
R.I.P.
So you'd be like, all right, I'll pay twice as much at KB because I can't find this fucking shit.
Yes.
Yeah, at Walmart.
They had exclusive deals
and the marketing deal.
I want to ask you guys, where did you get your toys from generally? Like if you can remember, like
for me, there was like we had kind of like these, they don't exist anymore, but it's kind of like these local
Child World?
mom and pop. Yeah, kind of. It was just weird.
Yeah, like a literally a toy store. Like,
it was just all they sold was toys. None of this exists anymore. But then to Colin's point, like I remember my dad would come through. Toys R Us was like, I was doing well. Like I was a good kid at that point. If I'm getting sent to Toys R Us, right, and then you rip the little tag off, and then there was this man behind a cage
for the game, for the video game. Yeah.
Then, like he was responsible. Like this man had so much privilege. Just behind the cage person to run out and go get you away from the tag. It's a stupid process if you think about it, right?
Oh my god! But
it was iconic, man.
It's like he's in a contamination.
And only he can do it,
right? And you had to go to the cash register first, and then they like stamped it.
Yeah.
And you gave it to him.
I used to think it was like a government like a really official title that you really need like expertise on.
Yeah,
Like you need
really
to be
official.
a physicist to handle these toys responsibly. And then the second you got them, you just ripped them open and threw them against the walls and stuff. But I always laugh at these stories with people about where people get their toys, because I remember toys. I went to Toys R Us, I think, literally 3 times in my entire life.
Wow.
Yeah,
because
growing up
because I would get my toys at the pharmacy.
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember that. I got
There
some
was-
GI Joes at the pharmacy. I remember that, but they're expensive. Yeah.
There was a pharmacy, like, I think a block down from my apartment in Yonkers.
Mhm.
It was called Lemac. I wonder if it's still there.
Mm.
But it was just a normal farm, and then this corner had the best toys I have ever gotten. Still, like, really, like, amazing Dragon Ball figures. They would have like little Dragon Balls with them. They would have cards with them. They had like these like official like licensed movie Spider-Man toys, and it was like everything that was like tailored to my interest specifically. If you didn't like Spider-Man, Dragon Ball, or like sci-fi shit, you were out of luck. If you were like a Pokemon kid, you wanted a Pokemon figure, gone. If you wanted like Yu-Gi-Oh or anything, nah. It was just my corner almost.
Yeah,
That's so funny. Somebody was a fan, right? Somebody that worked there. Had to
Yeah,
be.
it must have been.
Must have been, right?
Yeah, because I remember, like, with our Uncle Mike, who always comes up on the show, I remember him buying me Tunnel Rat, the G.I. Joe Tunnel Rat, at like Walgreens or something like that.
That was
You know,
a thing back then.
and I remember always making a beeline. I don't know if you guys remember this in the pharmacies, just regular pharmacies. Mom would go in there for a 1-hour photo or some shit, like, and you'd just make a beeline to whatever toys they had in hopes that they had something cool, because you never really knew. Usually it was busted up bullshit. This is where a lot of people ended up in later years finding old stuff, you know, which is super cool. So anyway, that's that. I have to figure out what to do with these guys. I can't believe, and I'm not going to go into it again because I don't want to be too redundant, but I was saying how I'm almost like, I refuse to put my G.I. Joes on the shelf or anything like that, even though I know I have a full collection, because I don't want to know that I have a full collection, because it's something that I've always wanted, you know, and that I never thought I would do. And then so I'm like, in the boxes is a full collection, no doubt about it. Like, I bought so many lots, and I can probably seriously, dude, I have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of G.I. Joes that I can sell back, you know, which is pretty exciting too, because they're getting more and more expensive.
I say we rip those babies right off the card.
Oh my God, you fucking...
Let's do it.
He's sacrilegious.
And brutally too, just like scissors and shears and stuff. We'll just go crazy on it.
Conceptually, that's not all that different from just like throwing money in a paper shredder. You know what I mean? I mean, like, it's like you might as well.
Yeah, what, opening them like that? You're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, opening them and exposing them to the air, God forbid.
Because I will say this is that I don't collect anything other than this. I don't really buy very much except for food and pay my bills. I really don't own, I wear the same fucking 3 t-shirts for 10 years at a time. So obviously I'm not buying very much out here, but I have unintentionally made like a side nest egg, basically. Like, these things are really valuable.
Yeah.
They're getting crazy valuable. And I don't know, I don't want to spoil it. I don't know if you guys know what happens at the end of Transformers.
Oh yeah.
The new Transformers movie.
Oh no, I haven't.
Oh,
seen
you
it.
keep telling me about
I haven't
this.
seen a new one yet.
I'm going to spoil it here. So people just fast forward 30 seconds, because I don't give a flying fuck.
I'm not watching.
I don't
these.
care either.
But I'm going to spoil it.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, the main character in Transformers at the end of Transformers, like the main human character, is invited to join G.I. Joe. And they're making like a universe with them.
Yeah,
They're
Hasbro,
blending
a Hasbro,
like a Hasbro universe. Yeah.
cinematic universe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's apparently, the next movie will apparently be him joining, and he's one, I don't know who he is. I mean, maybe he's...
I know who he is.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Which character would it be?
Which character?
Flint or something?
Oh no, the Transformers.
Yeah,
character?
I'm saying I wonder if he's going to be like, they're going to make him into like some random, like, that's fucking Quick Kick.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like Spike Wickwiki from Transformers as a new
Right.
G.I.
But
Joe.
that
It's
could
gonna
be it too. Is like, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah. So apparently at the end of the movie, he's invited to join G.I. Joe.
it's going to be Snake Eyes.
I hope it's. So what's
You
the
develop
line? What's the line then? It's so interesting, the movies that we're getting, because we're getting the Barbie movie, which I'm actually like super.
Yes.
I
wanna see
really
that
want to see
movie.
that movie.
I
That movie
knew
looks
it
so-
was going to be what it was. I fucking knew it when I saw it. I'm like, it is going to be like the Brady Bunch movies. It's going to be making fun of it.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Greta Gerwig,
I'm
right?
totally
Yeah.
stoked. I'm gonna do a double feature of Barbie and Oppenheimer, I think.
Oh,
wow.
That's great, dude.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer
Great
looks
combo.
awesome.
Yeah,
That does.
I'm excited for both of those. But I mean, man, Wonder if there's a Furby. There's probably gonna be like a Furby movie at some point too. Like all these things are gonna come back.
Yeah.
In some weird cinematic way. It's like I'm putting together a team, and it's like Furby. And fucking Gumby and Stretch Armstrong and all this weird shit.
I'm just asking this: if they're gonna really do a G.I. Joe movie and do it right, come on, let me be one of the Cobra, please.
Okay.
Cobra.
I wonder which one I would be. I would probably be a Dreadnought or something, right? With my beard and my earrings, I'd probably be like Torch or something like that.
That was Zartan and them.
But just let me be a Crimson Guard. You don't even have to know it's me. Let me put a mask on or something. Oh my god, I would shit.
The game. I love the Crimson Guard.
Oh, me too, dude.
They're so cool.
They're so dope.
So cool.
Oh, I love that you. When you come to the house, you'll have a good time going through all this shit, I think.
Yeah, I gotta check it out.
Well, my friends, it's good to be here with you guys. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me on this Friday. When we're recording this goes up obviously a different day than Friday. Much to get into. Good topics this week. Chris, I want to start with you because yours is very timely, and I think it's funny because I was thinking this would be a good topic, but I also people get mad at me when I do anything that even can be remotely political or current event. So I try to stay away from it so that everyone stops fucking yelling
They
at
can
me.
get mad at me.
Yeah, so you can.
Yeah, they can get mad at me.
Yeah, so get mad at you instead. I'll still say things they'll get mad at now. So anyway, Chris, go on.
Well, yeah. So I feel like this submarine thing is just too crazy of a story not to. And there's just so much to say, but there's so many angles to approach this from. And I wasn't even necessarily thinking politically about this. I was thinking more along the lines of like this submarine. And for people who are for some reason living under a rock and don't know, do you not know?
I literally found out looking at your tweet. I didn't know what I've been like kind of social media dark this whole week for the most part. Yeah, so
God bless.
so I read your tweet and then I was like, oh, this happened.
Yeah, so the basic rundown.
Sorry, Chris. Is it because you're trying to avoid all the shit with the FTC and stuff like that? Because I'm about to kill myself. I can't take it.
I'm like, when is it over? And then we got a decision. And so I've been low on Twitter and social media.
It's actually so funny because this is the most interested I've ever been in that Activision thing because like there's so many.
It's dirt coming out. Yeah, of course.
There's a lot of cool shit going on.
Yeah, they forgot to redact some stuff too, which is awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's not about this.
All right, let's go.
So the basic rundown is there's a company called OceanGate, and they were running expeditions, like kind of like tourist expeditions, to go down into the ocean to basically take tourists to see the Titanic, the wreckage of the Titanic, which is, I don't know if anybody knows, the Titanic is really, really deep. In the ocean. So, they have these subs, and there's this great interview of like a news crew talking to the people who are like kind of planning this, and they're talking about how makeshift the sub is, as if it's like a point of pride. They're like, yeah, we got these at Camper World. We control it with
dude. I
literally
saw this.
that's a verbatim quote. Mm-hmm. Yes. And he's like, yeah, we control it with this game. There's one button on it. It's like an elevator. Shouldn't be that hard. And just like a massive amounts of hubris, right, going into this. And so this thing goes under the water, and then it goes missing for several days. No one knows what's going on. And at some point, I don't know. I remember if it's the Coast Guard or what, but like people monitoring heard an implosion. So that thing was like, and for those of you who don't know about like implosions on submarines, I only learned about this recently because I looked into it. That shit is crazy and really instantaneous. Like the second a submarine under that pressure, deep water depressurizes and like caves in, it's like, I think it reaches the temperature of the sun. Literally.
Oh my God.
And then in like 3 milliseconds or something, like really, really short, everything's just gone.
They said it happens faster than humans perceive things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is so best ending possible for the situation. Because I was definitely because the news cycles were milking this thing. It's like I think I saw like some news thing where they had like an oxygen counter on the news, which is like so dystopian and crazy, or they were like, they've only got this much time left. Even though they knew, or at least they had some information that it had imploded already. So it's just this big milking of a tragedy for days and days on end. But the thing that I found interesting about it, or like one of the things I found interesting about it that I kind of wanted to pick your brains on is how in some ways being a little uneducated could serve you well. And I say that purely because the second I saw a Logitech controller from 2003.
I think it
By
was
the way,
a
that's how
leapfrog controller.
that's how they controlled this thing. By the way, they were sitting in this. It was like the size of a minivan, and they controlled it with a Logitech controller from like 2003.
They couldn't even
2004.
use a fucking real first party controller.
No, it was
Damn,
it was
boys.
a Logitech controller with like these really long like joys. It was like really makeshift. And so the second I saw that, I would think, oh, I'm not getting on this. That's the biggest part of it to me, even though everything else is like a red flag. It's a minivan sized makeshift submarine with like Camper World components and a one button. Like, no way am I getting in that. Oh, and by the way, it costs $250,000 per person to get on this thing. And I was thinking, like, man, if I saw that, I would just not do this. But it's also standard issue for controllers like that to be used on expeditions like this, or like for like military things. Like, it's very common for that controller to be used. So if you saw that controller and were scared off, despite the fact that that's standard issue, you would have been served well. I just thought that was interesting. And just there's a lot of different angles to pry at this from, but I just think the whole thing is fucking great. Like, look, you couldn't pay me $250,000 to sit in a submarine controlled by a Mad Catz controller to get this to Titanic.
Well, that's what's so strange about it. See, I didn't know this, Chris. It's apropos of nothing, because I didn't know you were going to do this topic at the time. But last night, Mike and I was like, I'm like, do you want to watch like a documentary about the Titanic just to understand? Because I know like kind of what happened generally, but there's a lot of deep minutia that I don't know and definitely didn't know. And so we ended up watching this like hour and a half documentary, and it's fascinating that like so many these guys dodged so many bullets just to end up at the bottom of the ocean anyway. And then people have been chasing after this thing for many, many decades. And I didn't realize that James Cameron himself is the funder of like the Challenger Deep, which is apparently a $10 million probe that he's gone down more than 30 times with.
Wow.
And so I say that because not only is it like we're fucking doing renegade, like real explorer shit, which I do appreciate. Like, it's like 100%. The dudes that used to try to build rockets like 100 years ago. Like, they straight up were trying to just straight up build rockets, and all the people that died trying to make airplanes and all the rest. So it's like, okay, I can get down with that. But there's an example of one that's built right and all of the different things. And after the documentary, I watched an interview with James Cameron, just like happened a couple hours before I watched it. And he was like perplexed. He was like, who would ever think that this was okay? Like, look at how expensive and sophisticated our machine is, and we're still scared of it. And this thing is garbage.
Yeah,
And
I don't think James Cameron went to Camper World.
No, exactly. And
probably not.
My favorite picture is the dude using a hand wrench to tighten something. There's like, I'm working on it. And I'm like, dude, you're not even creating remotely the requisite torque to seal that thing up.
So crazy.
It's just, so I think that what's so crazy about it, Chris, is it's not that people do that kind of shit. It's that no one, like you said, looked at it and said, I don't think so, man. Like, this is bonkers. And then you learn about all the stuff that the thing was broken several times in the past. I was reading an anecdote that the thing apparently had something. I don't know if you saw this. Apparently one of the dives had something backwards on it, like something installed backwards on it. And they had to use the controller 90 degrees, like holding it 90 degrees in order to make it make sense so they can get out of the situation. So this thing was fucked. And then this guy was also charging all of this money. And then I know you saw this, Chris, because I think I saw you tweet about it, which was that the 19-year-old kid that that went on the ship didn't want to be on it and was scared of it.
Yeah.
And did it for his dad for
Father's Day.
Yeah.
That's what resonated with me.
Constellation is sponsored by BetterHelp, accessible and affordable online therapy that can help you right now. Learn more at betterhelp.com/constellation. While therapy is certainly on vogue as we speak and has been for a while, actually, there's a lot more to it than mere image management, and I speak from experience. If you keep an open mind, remain honest with yourself and your therapist, and put your shoulder into your life's problems, you can overcome them, learn how to manage your feelings, and live a happier, more productive, and more, sane life. That's why I'm so pleased that a company like BetterHelp sponsors Last Stand shows, because as someone who's in monthly therapy, and who has been in therapy many times on and off for more than 3 decades, I know that there are a few key features of therapy that keep some people away, and BetterHelp does a lot to ameliorate some of those issues. One major issue in people seeking therapy is mere access. Who do you talk to? Where do you go? How do you sync up with the right provider? Oh, and you're telling me I have to drive there to their office or take a subway or an Uber and sit in a waiting room and then do all of that in reverse? No thanks. That's enough to turn almost anyone off. But BetterHelp's therapy is conducted completely online via audio, video, or even just text. So you don't have to go anywhere or be anywhere to get the help you're seeking. That's one box checked. Another issue BetterHelp tackles is cost, which is actually connected to the whole no office thing. Since you don't have to go somewhere to see someone, there's no space to rent and no associated bills to pay, and BetterHelp is kind enough to pass the savings along to you. In short, BetterHelp is more affordable than in-person therapy. So that's 2 down, access and affordability. But what about flexibility? Finding a therapist can be difficult, but what if you want to try someone else? BetterHelp lets you do that with no headaches, and will hook you up with a different practitioner if you feel like you want to try someone new. My friends, therapy has helped me in my life, and I think it can help you in yours too. In my life, the issues are depression and the anxiety that stems from it. For you, it can be just about anything. Relationship or family problems, motivation or work issues, and so much more. Simply talking to someone who's really listening to you and knows how to help can make all the difference. It's time to find your way through life more effectively. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/constellation today. That's BetterHelp.com/CONSTELLATION to get 10% off your first month of therapy sessions. Again, that's betterhelp.com/constellation for professional, effective, convenient, and affordable therapy that meets you where you are.
That's the one that killed, because that, I relate to it on so many levels because I am very risk averse. I am extreme. If something don't, I'm to the point, sometimes I'll be like, I don't know if I'm doing that roller coaster fair. like I'm that guy. I'm very risk averse. I'm all about self-preservation and wanting to be around. So to hear that was it was heartbreaking, because I saw that and I was just like, man, like, what would I have done, right? And there's a part of me that does relate to the son and say, all right, you know what? I know this means a lot to you, kind of thing, and your dad. But there's another part where it's just like, yo, I'm not doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that looks extremely, unsafe or risky. And man.
I can tell it was a situation of just stubbornness where it was like, listen, I would guarantee that there was like a conversation where it's like, Dad, don't get on this thing.
Right.
This is like the least safe thing possible. It's like, I want to do it. You don't want to do it with your old man? It's like, that sucks, dude.
Yeah.
That's to be guilted out of your gut feeling is like that's tragic. That's almost more tragic than the situation itself in some way.
Well, his death is definitely the most tragic.
Easily the most tragic angle of this, because like, I mean, I don't know. Like, everybody else is an adult. You couldn't pay me to get on that thing.
Would you go on, James? Would you go on Challenger Deep?
Would I go on Challenger Deep?
Yeah, like James Cameron's. No, I
have no interest. I'm
wondering. I understand that, but I'm wondering if there's a safety thing. Like James Cameron himself does it. So like,
I don't think so.
No way.
I really don't think there is a price even. Like if Elon Musk came to me and was like, I'll give you $3 billion if you go down in this sub and we'll give you the money when you come back up. I'd be like, nah, man. You have a good time, because I know me, man. I got that weird luck thing where like something would go wrong specifically for me,
right?
And then but not like wrong enough that it's like really bad. Wrong enough that like the oxygen will go away and then I'll like suffocate and then I'll get brain damage and then they'll rescue me and then I'm just stupid. And then I'll have like $3 billion. Everybody's gonna try to take it from my mentally deficient body,
right?
And it's like that's my life after that. If I was like in a row of people, and they were like, you want $3 billion to go down, and like, I'll be no, it's fine. And then if the guy next to me goes down under the water, comes back up and gets the $3 billion or whatever, I'll be like, yeah, dude, congratulations, sincerely.
Wow,
I'm so happy for you. I'm not even. I don't feel any type of way about it, sincerely. I'm not going in that thing.
What if you did this though, Chris? See, if you could be even more canny than that and say the guy's going sequentially down the line, and so the next guy is going to be asked if you're not. You go to him and say, I'm going to say yes. He doesn't know you're bluffing unless you give me $50 million when you come back up. Right. So he'll get $2.95 billion.
Yeah.
and then he's like, fine. And then so you make $50 million. You're good. You're safe. He comes back up. Everybody wins. And he never knew, just like at a blackjack table.
Yeah.
That you were bluffing, my friend.
That's easy. Yeah.
I respect it.
You don't really bluff at a blackjack table. You bluff at a poker table.
Right.
Dave, what do you think of this situation? I'm very curious what you have to say about it. But there's so many. I have so many notes because there's so many
of,
tethers. There's a lot of different things.
There's a lot of different threads to pull from. It's why I think it's an interesting.
Yeah,
it's a great
and
topic.
timely. You know, I mean, I have to tell you guys, I was paying attention to this story from the very beginning, way before anything went wrong, because I think in kind of a self-torturing way, because I'm so severely claustrophobic that you have to understand.
Oh yeah, dude.
If this thing went swimmingly from start to finish, this still would be my worst nightmare. Being trapped in that capsule for the better part of a week with 5 people. I mean, this tiny barrel, basically. Horrifying, and I was riveted by it, but I felt myself having mini panic attacks as I paid attention to the search and rescue and everything like that. But I couldn't avert my eyes. Like I just couldn't look away because it's such a horrifying notion to me. And then learning more and more, like the fact that there was one way in, one way out. It was this circular window that was bolted in manually, as Colin said, by 17 bolts. If there was a fire, let's say, they were drawing this akin to the first Apollo mission where there was a fire and 2 astronauts died and they couldn't get out. That if anything went wrong, whether it was a fire or poisonous gas or too high of carbon monoxide or whatever, they would have died. They just would have. This thing smacked of complete incompetence from minute 1. You know, it was a complete death wish. A comedy of errors, and done in shit. I mean, that controller looked like a leapfrog controller to me. I mean, it has like the chiclet, Jolly Rancher buttons, like the colorful button. It looked like a kid's thing. Yeah. And people are paying $250,000 a piece to go down. And it even got to the point where I was looking at the structure of this thing, and I was like, even if they got down there and successfully could see the wreckage of the Titanic and ooh and ah and everything like that, they didn't have this panoramic view. Everybody would have to look at this one relatively small viewport. They were kind of packed in there like sardines.
Yeah.
Nothing made sense.
They had a TV in there too, which was the weirdest thing about it to me, because so you're going down to see the Titanic through not even in person, but through like the lens of a camera, basically. Just send
right.
it drone.
So you're watching it. They're going to see what we're ultimately going to see.
Yeah,
they paid $250,000.
They see what we've seen,
and
like
and
a million,
risk
footage of the Titanic. Except like maybe it's more modern footage, so there's like slightly more rust.
Yeah, there's a front on shot of the Titanic wreckage that I would argue is one of the 50 probably most famous pictures ever taken. Like it's a very specific picture. Like everyone knows it. It's like of the rails in the front.
Oh, that icon. Yeah.
We have down from the left side. That everyone knows that shot.
We have the technology to get those photos.
Sure.
Like I don't know, man.
Dude, we first visited the wreckage in the 80s. Like we've seen it and seen it and that's what I'm so fascinated by, is that it's like, why do you want to see this so bad? It has been seen, and I get the exploration aspect of it, but it would be like Pizarro's fucking grandson going out in the 1700s to be like, I'm going to go discover America. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, we've already been there.
I feel like it's like these people, and I think these exact people that went on it to a person were these adventurer types. So it was akin to going into space, which I think this guy who passed away with his son had gone into space. They climbed Kilimanjaro. They do all the most badass things as explorers, as adventurers, right? So this was like the next thing. I think that's really what it is. It's like, I don't want to say thrill junkie, but it's something like that. It's like a high budget.
It has to be. It has to be.
Right. That type of thing.
And because you can afford it. Like it's I think it has a lot to do with that too.
It's a hobby.
It's like, by the way, I think that's an old school thing of people paying to go do things. I think it's so corny. It's like, you're not a mountain climber. Why don't you leave the mountain climbing to the mountain climbers?
Oh,
dude, why don't you leave the submarining shit to the submariners?
The thing too is like even mountain climbers die climbing mountains.
Yeah.
What the hell hope do you have?
Skilled, experienced. Now this is 17,000 feet. Am I correct?
Yeah, dude. Like climbing like Mount Everest or whatever. I didn't even know this until recently, but like if you die up there, they leave you.
Yeah.
Wow.
They just straight up they leave you, and they use you as markers. So they're like, the dude in the black pants, make a right at the dude in the black pants, and take a sharp left at the guy in the orange puffy coat. Like literally, you're a landmark.
That's crazy.
like a street sign at a certain point. It's
So
like
the Titanic is over 3 miles down.
No, it's 12,000 feet. It's 2,000. It's 2
Oh,
miles.
12,000 feet.
Yeah,
I thought it was 17.
wait,
I'm
how
sorry.
deep is that?
12
Miles?
2 miles
That's
and
2
change.
miles?
It's like
2
2
miles,
miles,
doesn't
2.1 miles or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
No,
Dude,
that's-
the water. So the water down there is under such pressure. It's It's cold. It's colder than freezing, but
Yeah,
it's
I
under
heard
so much
this.
pressure that it cannot freeze.
Can't freeze.
So it acts in all these weird ways, and it's like, dude, I don't know. Here's the thing I wanted to say. I'm curious what you guys think of this, because I think this is an interesting thread, and we've touched on this, but I love exploration, like explorers. Think about, just think about the age of exploration, of course, but then Lewis and Clark and all the cool shit that's happened in and around American history over time. Explorers going to the moon, to the Arctic, and all the rest. It's dope as hell. Everyone should appreciate that. You do it at your own risk, and a lot of these people have fucking died. What's crazy about what you were saying was Apollo 1 was, and people might not know this, is everyone on Apollo 1 died on the tarmac. You know,
Wow.
That thing didn't go into space. You know, it didn't move.
Right.
They died literally trying to do it.
Good point.
These things happen constantly. Tons of people were lost looking for the Northwest Passage. And we had said it, I think, yesterday on the show on Sacred Symbols, Chris, is that people are going to have to get used to people dying in space. It hasn't happened yet. Believe it or not, the United States hasn't lost a person in space. Everyone that's died through space travel has died on Earth, coming or going or being on the planet.
Yeah.
And so, but as I noted on the show, and I've noted many times, the NASA astronauts would, and this is according to Buzz Aldrin, is that NASA astronauts would readily go on suicide missions if they could, to go do crazy, exciting shit. And he's long been the proponent of the suicide mission to Mars, which I think is super fascinating. The idea that you're not going there to die, but you're going there knowing you're not coming back. Like you're going to have to figure it out when you're there, and you're probably going to die, but you can sort it out. And he's like, dude, everyone that's the NASA astronaut roster would do that right now. So like, you have to embrace that exploration, that explorer's spirit. But there's two things I wanted to say. Is one is that this isn't new. You're not exploring or seeing shit. This would be kind of cool if no one could do this, right? If it's like, holy shit, this guy's like really trying to get deeper than anyone's ever gone. It's like, dude, that's, and the second thing is you're just ignoring common sense. U.S. submarines don't go anywhere close. The most sophisticated American naval military equipment doesn't go anywhere close to that depth. They would never dare to go close to that depth. I was watching something where they're saying we test our submarines in like 50 feet of water, dude. We're like scared as shit that something's going to break. And we would never, ever go that deep. So that spirit of exploration is kind of missing the target.
Right.
You know, this would be much cooler if, and I don't want to speak so glib about it, but it's like, oh man, they died doing something crazy. It's like, no, you died doing something stupid and commercial. People in the 80s found the ship. We already know it's there. We've seen it. Everyone knows everything about the Titanic. You're doing it because you're interested in it, and that's fine. But that's different than exploration. That's why I always think like I would go to space. I've said this a million times. If someone came up to me and said like, we'll put you on the next SpaceX rocket to space, bring you up and come back down, I'd be like, that absolutely, I would do that. You know? But that's like one very specific thing. I don't want to just do everything for shits. I love space. I'm very interested in space. It's like this guy, like you said, is like, I'm going to do everything. I'm fucking rich. It's vulgar as hell. I'm going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm going to fucking go to space. I'm going to go see the Titanic. It's like, fuck off with that. That's really, really a dangerous mindset. That's not the explorer's mindset. The guys that went to the North and South Pole to explore them weren't also the guys that crossed the oceans to look for new continents. They're different. Anyway, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the thing. It's like, choose your lane.
Yeah, you got to stick in, and to me, it's just like it is just thrill junkie stuff. I think, like what Dagan said, where it's like it's just you didn't do anything cool. You just killed a kid, basically. That's it. That's all you did, really.
It's so sad, dude. I mean, it's really, don't you think too, Kyle, though, it's like a status thing, right? It's like, it's not in the spirit of exploration. It's that only the privileged few could do this. Definitely. It's like rich Europeans back in the day. I guess this is still a thing, and not just, just Europeans, but they used to go on safaris, right?
Right.
That was the big thing. Come back with a pelt, come back with a lion or rhino horn or whatever.
It's like the old Grand Tour where people in America used to come to Europe and stay there for a year and then come back with all their knowledge and their books and all that kind of shit.
Sure.
And totally. I mean, it's totally the case. I'm trying to rectify, and I think I've successfully done it in my own mind, like my love of the age of exploration and the Vikings and even the Phoenicians and everyone, the Romans perhaps being on the coast of California and all the crazy shit that's out there. Like, that's good shit. That's like exploring the unknown. And that's so exciting. And we have to, I don't think that this is going to happen, but this kind of death and destruction is going to, I think, become very common when we become truly spacefaring. And I think we have to become immune to it, but also able to say, like, well, these guys were doing it for the wrong reasons. The ship was wrong. The craft was wrong. The idea was wrong. Everything was wrong. And I personally would never get on going to space. If I was going to go with Blue Origin or SpaceX, one thing I know for sure is that they fabricate every fucking piece of that spaceship, that everything is bespoke and custom, that the owner of Blue Origin has gone into space on his own rocket. You know, now people can say, like, well, that guy went down on his own ship. And it's like, that's true. I guess that's true. But
these are different things.
Yeah,
they didn't go to Bass Pro Shop to get the
They didn't go. Yeah, they didn't go to Toys R Us and melt a bunch of GI Joes.
And people say that people say that, delivery aside, because you have to use rocketry to get into space, and that's very difficult and very expensive, and that's a totally different thing. Being in space is safer than being under the water that deep, and a lot of people have been saying,
it is, yeah.
You know, like it's. You we've seen it and on sci-fi, obviously, and it wouldn't maybe not be super accurate, but when a spaceship depressurizes, it doesn't happen instantly. Like, you can seal it and it's dangerous and it's crazy, but like just that alone, you realize like how much pressure you're being crushed. You know, I don't know. Now let me ask you this, and Cog, I'm curious. I don't know if you've seen this at all, but one thing I wanted to say about this, and Chris and Dag, you can speak on it as well, is I don't like the whole celebrating people's deaths thing. Like, why are people so dark? And I know you haven't been on Twitter, I guess, so you haven't seen it. Like, predictably, because one of these guys was a billionaire. It's like, well, fuck the billionaire, But generally speaking, there's such a distaste towards just the celebration of misery. I understand the commoditization of misery in some way. Like, we're all gathered around the TV with the oxygen meter on the side of the TV, like Chris said, and
rubberneck.
Yeah, that's one level of fucked up, no doubt. But there's another level of fucked up to like celebrating this kind of stuff, and this level of human misery. This is what I think scared you off of Twitter probably for a while during the FTC situation, which is what my situation has been as well. So talk to me a little bit about that.
It's just a morbid, desensitized culture that I'm seeing, and it's just like, I don't know. Everyone has this thing where it's cool to be different or the opposite, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing, to go against the grain kind of thing, and it's celebrated. And we know with social media, you know, negativity, regardless, is going to trend more, do more, or whatever. And that's what I see from it. For me, it's like, from a person who didn't necessarily grow up in social media, that kind of grew into it, like, I always look at it as I would never do anything on social media that I would not do in someone's face. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, I'm going to treat you like an individual and a person. And I think it's just a very loose, I'm behind the keyboard, I'm tweeting, and I don't care kind of thing, because there's no repercussion. I'm from the era you get punched in the face. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you do stupid stuff. If you do that in someone's face, that's how it is. That's why I always try to treat people, even that I don't agree with respect. Because my thing is, at some point, maybe I run into you, right? Then what? See what I'm saying? So it's a different energy. But yeah, to your point with the, you know, celebrating regardless of what, you know, and like I said, that's why Chris's tweet really resonated with me, just to learn about it. I'm like, man, like, that is so sad, you know, regardless to whatever status he had, the you know, these people had the ability to do this, or it was a stupid decision, they didn't clearly think it out, or, you know, it was so many things they could have done, but just at the end of the day, you still have to respect human life was lost. You know what I mean? And we just gotta, you have to have an empathy for that. And I think people just lack that, because the safety of being in their house and just tweeting away and saying a whole bunch of foolishness. So this is where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Chris.
No, I mean, I think what you're saying makes sense. I do think, there's a lot of levels to this. There are people celebrating, obviously, but those are the people celebrating all sorts of terrible shit. And then there are people who I think justifiably think it's kind of funny, because I mean, like, dude, like the irony of this thing all happening because of a Titanic expedition alone is amazing. But the fact that, like, every step of the way, just so many stupid decisions made by people with just too much money and too much hubris and carelessness. I feel really bad for the kid specifically. Like that is where my sympathies lie the most. But like everybody else, like willingly got on this thing, despite the fact that like there's a million red flags and everybody's an adult. It's crazy. It's crazy. Tragic, obviously. But yeah, I think a lot of it is genuinely, and I don't think I'm not sure if people really actually think about it in this way, like consciously, but I do think it's a subconscious thing that is a result of just the internet constantly showing you the worst shit ever. Like Twitter's kind of lively sometimes. I don't know what the hell happened to Twitter, but like in the last like several months, I've just seen like there's a video of like a cat in a blender or something, and it's just like, why is this on my fucking why is this on Twitter?
I heard about
now?
that, but I can't even. No way am I even looking.
It's crazy. Like that shit's skyrocketed in Elon's tenure. I don't know if it's him.
That's
really. I don't think it's
insane.
his fault necessarily, but like it's a coincidence where like it's just like it's a crazy bad time, and the 24-hour news cycle constantly inundating you with like really really horrible shit all the time. There comes a point where like I think everybody has empathy, but I think there's also like a maximum point, right? Like you can only feel so bad for so long to the point where it's like, okay, I've got to reserve how bad I feel for the people who like really didn't do fucking anything wrong. You know, like people who are just like in situations that just entirely like freak shit. Like, oh, you're just on the street and then the ground explodes. And it's like, that's horrible, you know, because like nobody could have done anything to prevent that. It's a shame. But like when you make every wrong decision and it's like
Hubris.
expensive and it's gaudy,
Hubris as well.
like
said.
I feel bad, but like I don't feel heartbroken.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I don't feel nearly as horrible as I would for like, I don't know, any number of, I don't know, children in schools being shot, you know, like that's way infinitely more tragic to me to like lose your life on the way to math class than lose your life paying $250,000 to go see something that's already been seen in a fucking Fisher-Price submarine controlled by a Logitech controller.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think there's just like a ceiling, and I think people are just kind of like stretched very thin. And so, and I do think you do have to kind of delegate. You have to delegate your empathy in such a way that you can't be miserable all the time. And I think that's really what it is. I don't think people want to think about a lot of these things. I don't think people want to be depressed all the time, hearing about like X number of horrible stories every single day.
Right.
And so you choose the ones that make the most sense to you. And I think that differs based on the person.
I think humans are uniquely equipped probably from a very long time ago to deal with, like, with consciousness comes understanding of the world around you and all of the fears and whatever. Imagine like being in a cave or in around a fire, speaking a very primitive language. You have no knowledge of the world and all the things that can kill you and are scared, and you have to operate. Unlike a lot of other animals that know some of the dangers but aren't constantly cognizant of all the things around them, I think humans have compartmentalized or evolved to compartmentalize like really bad shit. So what we talked about on the show once about death, where some people do linger on death, but a lot of people just don't think about their own death. It comes up and your mind somehow just shovels it away. It's like, no, don't even worry about it.
Yeah, we're not meant to dwell there.
Yeah, like you can't think about that. I wanted to ask, Dig, kicking it over to you, I wanted to ask you this. What do you think about the whole PSYOP part of this? And because I'm curious about what you think about this too. Apparently the US Navy knew almost immediately that this thing was done and didn't say anything for 4 days. And that James Cameron interview is notable that I watched, and a lot of people are watching it, because he basically says like this was a charade. Like everyone knew that this thing had exploded a long time ago. And I don't know what that was all about, kind of thing. And people have like some deep theories, including the Biden administration wanted to hide the Hunter Biden revelations through making this and all this kind of stuff. But usually my general theory about PSYOPs are that they're hard to control. And so they're very limited actually. And so, but there's some weird, basically people are saying like, you gave us hope and it was the oxygen and it was electricity and the banging that people were hearing. And they knew none of that was true. Because they picked up the explosion on the very sophisticated military equipment that the United States has in the ocean. You know, so I'm wondering what do you make of, why did they hide it?
That's incredible. That I didn't even hear about. Let me just step back and just say, Chris, I loved your tweet yesterday. I definitely had a goddamn it, why didn't I think of that moment?
Oh, which one?
The one about
I
the
don't remember.
sub and going down to explore the wreckage of this sub, which was going down. I thought that, and you know why? Because I think of these things a lot. I wasn't clever enough to think of that particular idea, and I think just for me, there's a catharsis in finding humor in something really tragic, especially when it's still fresh, when that wound is still fresh. But I'm bad at timing, so I don't even go there because I don't have the knack for the tone, and I think when exactly to unleash that thought or whatever. So I really admired your tweet, and it got me to thinking, like, exactly what you guys are saying. For me, that sort of sensationalist thing of the internet for me, I remember, and I talk about this a lot, an uncanny amount, actually, I think because it haunted me so much as a kid. But for somebody of my generation, my first exposure to this sort of thing, way before the internet, was those old VHS Faces of Death videos.
Yo, remember those?
That were available in the video store. And basically what this was actual footage, whether it was surveillance footage or somehow recorded footage of people really dying or getting maimed and stuff like that.
Yeah, live leak, basically.
And it would fall into...
It's live leak on VHS, yeah.
Right, exactly. This was like the early version of that. And like it would fall into a friend's older sibling's hands, and everybody would gather around and watch it when the parents weren't looking. And for very early on, I knew that wasn't for me. Like it was a really getting to know you moment with myself of like, that's not for me. I'm not going to watch The Cat in the Blender, which is another disturbing thing of like things I think about or we thought about maybe 5 years ago being the dark web crossing over into mainstream, just stuff on the internet that's much more accessible now. When did this happen? Why is that seepage going on? So that's a whole nother can of worms. That's probably a topic for another day. But I didn't even know about, first of all, I don't think I've ever seen conspiracy theories are going to come along with everything, but I don't think I've ever seen it happen so fast that this is happening with the military knew and why and what was the reason. And that whole sort of newsworthy thing of putting the oxygen clock down, giving something for people to watch. I'm not really a big conspiracy theorist. I'm not suspicious by nature, but that smacks of, like distraction to me. Like, what are you distracting me from? What's going on? What's going on with China and Taiwan? I jump to like the big issues, and what do what's the carrot you're dangling in front of me for me not to see beyond that? That's where I always go. But why? The other thing is too, that I wanted to ask you guys, and not to shift around too much, but all of these people signed waivers, right? Mm-hmm. So this and the CEO went down with the ship.
Right.
So is this company no longer?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I would imagine they have people stepping up. They posted a statement or something that was like, we're I can't remember what it was. It was it kind of reminded me of the like the Cyberpunk is delayed post, where it was like a image macro of just like a some statement where they were like, we please let us grieve or whatever, leave the families, that stuff. So I assume it's operational. It's like I assume there's people there in place to step forward in case anything happens. Any company probably has enough people higher up to take that spot, but it's still around as far as I know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they're indemnified, I think. Here? So like I don't think they're going to be.
Good luck to them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I assume there's still going to be lawsuits galore, but there is an indemnity in some sense with what they were signing, and I don't know. I mean, I assume the company is finished.
I think there's a big news story. I wouldn't rent a paddleboard from these people now. I don't know where they go from here.
Oh yeah, that's
right. Surfboards on a beach.
You pick up a paddleboard from them, and you explode in the temperature of the fucking sun. I think. I don't know, man. It's. I don't know if the thing about psyops to me is like I don't believe human beings are really smart enough to really orchestrate things to the degree that I think we overestimate the intelligence of people because we see like really, really incredible things happen all the time. It's like, oh, we went to space.
Yeah.
But it's like that's going to space is different than like if you've ever had a secret and you've ever told anybody anything, that people don't keep secrets. Like it's impossible. Everybody's always like really eager.
It's a great point.
To just be like, hey, I'm working on this, the friendy A thing situation. Dude, I know so much shit that I shouldn't know because like from people who are trusted with that information. So it's like, to me, it's like I think it's really like an Occam's razor situation where it's like, why did they stretch the news story out for as long as they did, despite knowing that, or having at least intel, or at least having intel that like it had exploded already?
Sure.
It's because it's attention, and attention is currency. And you know, they want you to watch and pay attention, and
Eyeballs.
that's literally it. I don't think there's anything really deeper than that.
Yeah.
Because imagine how difficult. Imagine orchestrating that. Can you imagine? I like how there's this like kind of dual identity with the government, where it's like they're so incompetent where they can't even run the VA effectively, but they're also like really the world's most intelligent masterminds as far as like manipulate.
It's
like
true,
it can't be both. You know,
we're steeped in John Grisham and Matthew Bourne movies and all this bitchin' stuff that's created. But yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I mean,
it's fun. It's fun to write about that stuff because it's like, I feel like in some ways we wish that was what the real world was, where there was like a lot of like really intense secrets and like, ooh, how cool. And that does stuff. That stuff does exist in some way, shape, or form, but not this swiftly, man.
No.
Like this what was it, like 4 days ago this happened?
Yeah, Sunday.
Like really unprecedentedly quick acting time for government to really do anything.
It's still scary to think, though, now you're talking about eyeballs and ratings, that these, I always talk about Comcast in Philly,
most
the eye in
important,
the sky. It's like the eye of Sauron, right? That's really, if they have the power to do the Comcasts and, you know, Fox Newses and all this stuff of the world, if they have the power to elongate these news stories just in terms of ratings and the bottom line, that's scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's scarier to me than there being wide conspiracies, in my opinion. Like it's just the idea that the profit of attention is so enviable and so alluring that it kind of trumps anything else, I think is far scarier.
Yeah, and turning it into entertainment. Really, that's.
I mean, we've been doing that for a long time, though. To be fair,
it's true. It's true. Yeah. It's old decades.
I mean, what was that? Which was the NASA thing? The Challenger.
Oh, Challenger. Yeah, it was at school.
God.
Yeah, that happened. I remember.
That was like a big deal too.
So well.
They stopped school. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, then the Columbia, which was exploded coming back. Yeah, which was in 2003, and of course Apollo 1.
Forgot about that.
And others. Yeah, it's in exiting this topic, which was a great topic, I wanted to just throw this out there that I couldn't help but think of a Twilight Zone episode from the original run that maybe only Dagan would really be familiar with, but I don't know if you guys like Twilight Zone. But Dig, do you remember the episode of Twilight Zone where it's the toys in the toy bin?
Oh, sure, of course.
And it's like a totally barren existence or whatever, and they're just a lot. I was thinking about that with the sub, where there's like a bunch of different Twilight Zone episodes on that sub, if the sub survived for a while. Because thankfully what happened to them is they met oblivion quicker than they could have even perceived it, which is scary in and of itself. But imagine if they were sinking and they lost power, so it was all dark in there. Or imagine if they were able to text with the surface. So imagine if they heard the thing start buckling and they realized they only had a few minutes and they were arguing over who got to text what or who got to say things to the surface and like last words and all this kind of stuff. But in the scuffle, they wasted all their time and the thing just, I couldn't help but, my creative mind couldn't help but go towards like what the situation on that ship would have been like. Cause I heard people talking about it, about if you know you have this much, like we were talking about on Sacred Symbols, like does a CEO kill himself on the to try to save oxygen? Do they all kill themselves to try to give the kid 20 days to be found? Or so all sorts of weird, sick things.
It's a dark, it's a dark situation. Yeah. But you know, the end result of it is tragic. But it's also arguably the best horrible outcome.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Sure. Like the second I found out it imploded, I was like, oh, that's way, way, way better than just being in the dark under the ocean for like starving and like probably like eating each other. Like Jesus Christ. Like holy hell. Mm-hmm. Thank God.
All right. Good topic. Let's move on here. Yeah. Cog, I want to hear from you and your topic this week.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. It's funny. I had a interesting experience this past week. I wanted to talk about telemarketers in general because I have a hard and fast rule. Cog does not answer any phone number that is not in my phone. If you come up unknown, if you come up restricted, I'm not answering you. And if you are important, you should leave a voice message and then I will respond to you. That's just how I operate.
Yeah.
So somehow I got a number and it was like from Texas. It was like something Texas, and it got through. And I'm like, so clearly maybe I know this person, or it just intrigued me. So I'm like, all right, Texas, you're going to get a shot. I don't know who you are. You may be someone I know. I pick up the phone. And it's this very charming gentleman. He's talking. He's like, hey, we noticed you bought one of our products. And I'm like, okay, which product was that? And he's like, this it's called Pillow Cube. And because I'm a side sleeper. And I remember going through a whole process of trying to find the perfect side sleeping pillow. Because I suck with pillows. I hate hotel pillows. My pillows, I go through a ton. And I remember when I researched this thing or whatever, I was like, all right, it looks pretty cool. It seems scientifically sound. My spine's going to stay aligned, whatever. It looks like a damn cube. So I'm like, yeah, I remember you guys. He's like, well, how do you like our products? I was like, no, I really love it, actually. So, we're going through it. And he was really, I have to admit, this is the most charming, amazing telemarketer I've ever, and I usually hate them. I cannot stand them. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, he's really doing a good job. He's like, yeah, you didn't know? He was like, what other issues you have? Or how can we improve it? So I was like, well, my main thing is I travel a lot, I go to hotels. I was like, it sucks that I can't bring my pillow. He's like, guess what? We have a portable edition, smaller one, for guys like you that you could just, put in your suitcase. I'm like, all right, cool. So then it got to a point where he's getting now too comfortable and he's like calling me other times. And he's like, by the way, we have a new mattress. We're getting into the mattress business. And I sent you an email and we're talking about, and I'm like, all right, now we have crossed the line. Like you've called me like 4 or 5 times this week. You're way too comfortable. And then I just started laughing to him. I was like, how did I get into this situation?
That's so funny, dude.
This guy's acting like we the homie. Like it's crazy. So I wanted to bring this to you. 1, your experience with telemarketers. 2, just in general, just like also the mindset of a person doing that job, right? Because you figure that person gets hung up on, ignored, a ton. So how many, like, what's the statistical breakthrough, if you guys ever think about that? So you guys can take it wherever you want. I just thought it was just hilarious this week.
Yeah. For me, it's interesting. I always think about, and we all existed during this time of just the phone ringing in your house. And I always remember the phenomenon of caller ID and how my mom got caller ID in the late 90s. And you finally knew who was calling you because people used to screen your calls. Or you just answer. I mean, people used to just answer the phone. I mean, it still fucking flummoxes me that we lived like that. We lived like that for 100 years, basically.
So true.
And it's for some reason, I remember telemarketing in some sense being much more verboten back then than it is now. It would still happen, but because you really were reeling people in, you were probably getting a bunch of people to at least talk to you. And I remember people getting upset. And then in the 90s, you guys might remember out of Washington, there was like the do not call list, and they were trying to get this thing through Congress so like that you could get your number removed from the telemarketers. And telemarketers kind of ruined phone calls, much like spam ruined email for a lot of people. I'm so vigilant about spam I get. I am crazy vigilant about it. When I get a piece of spam from anyone, I'm like, unsubscribe, block, get away from me, don't want it. So that when I get emails, I'm pretty much just getting what I need. And so I always just love but I can't believe, because in my mind, Cog, I can't believe that this guy actually caught you for a little while, because to me, I always felt bad for the people doing it once I became conscious of like what working was and stuff like that, because my assumption was always that this is like a person, you don't want to do this for a living. Like you are desperate at this point. I mean, if you're doing telemarketing, no, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but I imagine that that's a pretty desperate situation because it's probably very little money, very low success rate. Like you said, you're like reviled. People there's like everyone hates you. No one wants to hear from you. No one wants to hear from you. And I've noticed that actually recently there's a primary going on in Virginia for like the state legislature and all of that. And I started getting calls from random Virginia numbers. And I'm like, nope. I don't like, I know you're some fucking phone farming dude who's trying to get me to vote for someone I don't care about, or all of the rest. Like, just leave me alone. And I think that's the whole thing. One of the valuable things that I'm perceived to have had through Last Stand, we have 13,000 something patrons right now, but over time, I think we've had like 30,000. And I have 30,000 email addresses of customers, right? Like, that's mega valuable. I would never do anything with that content, but I'm saying for myself, like if I wanted to just send an email out to everyone, well, maybe one day I would, about something that was happening, that's considered mega valuable as opposed to me just randomly emailing whoever. I don't know, man. I just, Dig, I'm curious what the situation is in your house with the telemarketing, because you have a landline still, which always intrigues me, because
We do.
it's when I'm at mom's, for instance, and the phone rings, I'm like, what is going on here?
You look around like,
Yeah.
This novel thing.
is that the TV?
I haven't heard a phone ring in years. And the funniest thing, we always make fun of our mom, is that she doesn't even answer it.
No,
She just has it. She's just like, I'm like, if you're not going to use it, then just shut the ringer off.
it's habit.
I don't know what the hell's going on with them. Anyway, Dig, talk to me about what's going on with your
Yeah,
life
man.
in telemarketers.
We're keeping it old school over here. Well, this one comes up in a timely way for me. It was making me laugh because earlier in the year, I guess it was in the wintertime, something went wrong with our landline and we didn't have the home phone for probably the better part of 3 months. And, we didn't miss it. And we were purposely not calling Verizon to repair it because we were like, we don't really need this. I think the philosophy is that we keep it for the kids, for the schools, so we can be in touch with the main office of the schools if there's an absence, the pediatricians, and the older people in our lives, like our parents, especially Helene's parents, who actually call the home phone by habit. That's just what they do. I think it's an area code thing. It's the 215 thing. They just grew up with that, Or if you're living on Long Island, it's a 631 thing. It's just old habit. It just becomes like rote after a while. But we didn't have it. And we didn't call to get it repaired. And thinking back, it was 3 months of bliss. It was so quiet, no telemarketers. And then we got it repaired. And it was this weird thing, actually, where the internet and the Wi-Fi was fine the whole time. We still had cable for the TV at that time. We have since cut the cord, but that was working fine. But something went on with the phone line in the walls where the guy was here finally repaired. He was here for hours. I don't know what the hell had to be done, but something was seriously wrong with it. He was in the walls. He replaced all the phone jacks in the house. It took literally 4 hours, this guy, to get through the repair. And then we got it back and the phone started ringing again off the hook with the telemarketers. And two things occur to me with the telemarketers. One is, it's fascinated me. This is not a new thing, right? For decades of how not only how does somebody choose this job, but even more so, how is this cost effective for the companies when this is universally aggravating for people? It's a known thing. Like, how is this at all profitable or effective for your company? And you know what the other thing is? The big uptick. Kyle, you and I might have talked about this. We might have talked about this recently. The big uptick of door-to-door salesmen happening, I would say, since the spring of this year. They're back.
Wow.
And that's like the real life telemarketers.
You got to get the no solicitation sign. That's what I have. I have that.
I'm not sure.
It works.
I am not sure people would. I'm not sure they would adhere to it. And here's the thing that they do in my neighborhood, which I never realized growing up in the suburbs, in Long Island, that this was the same tactic. But somebody will come around with a company car or a truck and then drop these people off. Mm-hmm. And these people will weave in and out of the cul-de-sacs, weave up and down the street, through the neighborhood, and for hours. And the car will be idling along slowly at some point behind them. And this could go on for hours and hours. And they'll go into the multiple pockets in different neighborhoods. And the telemarketing industry reminds me of the phone version of that. But that's what I'm always so mystified by, is to the point where I get a telemarketer, if they trick me into answering the phone, I'll ask them, like, is this at all, like, do you make any sales? Is this working? And maybe because the overhead's so low, their salaries, whatever structure they have in-house to do this, I'm not sure. But
they
the
probably
other
get
thing
commissions, which is even more sadder when you think about it.
That's sad.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So it's almost like that. It's almost like waiting tables in a way, but the tips can't be good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where at least if you give you're working at a diner, you give good service. Hopefully, most people, a good percentage of people, will give you a nice tip. But the other thing is the trickery involved now, and how I'm a little suspicious of how the technology is interwoven. I'll give you an example. I'm applying for a job down in Atlanta. Okay. I get a lot of telemarketing calls. I never get anything. I hardly ever get anything with a location. It's always a phone number. But lately, I've been getting calls that just come up Atlanta. It'll say ATL. And this is the first time maybe this year where I'm talking to companies at Atlanta. So how is that a coincidence? And the other thing is that I've been noticing lately, this is trickery at its finest. This is real deception. I'll get a 215 area code, a Philly area code pop up, and I'll just think it's a neighbor or a colleague or a friend of Helene's or something. And I'm like, oh, they're local. And I'll answer the phone, and it's clearly some guy in Dubai.
Yeah, they're like spoofing the numbers. I get that too. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's pretty tricky.
Yeah, that's why to Cog's policy of just not interacting with numbers. I don't either. I don't answer your numbers. Sometimes I don't even. I'm like, I think that might be my doctor or something. I'm like, no, I'm just not going to even risk it.
I'll risk it.
You got to have that official title where it says it. But to Dagan's point, I think that's what surprised me how I got because it was just like. It was coming through like a legitimate Texas number. So I'm like, all right, well, I know a co-host from Last Word at the Destiny Podcast. He bought this. He's from, maybe it's someone, you know what I'm saying? And that was the only thing my curiosity got me. But to your point, yeah, like I'm with you, Kyle. Like, Colin, I am not, because you know the traps, you know how they do. But they, like you said, they're getting so sophisticated now in the way they're doing this process. And to your point, like, what are they making? Like, how beneficial is this for you? Like,
what's funny though, Dig, about the people in the neighborhood, because we've talked about that ad nauseum, because I live for people that haven't heard, although I think most of you probably have, because we've talked about it on Knockback or Constellation at some point. But the neighborhood I live in is newer, so it's like a good time to get everyone. You want to get you want to get solar panels, you want to get fucking this, that, and the other thing. So people are always selling you shit, which is why I got the no solicitation sign, and it's worked. Except for I've had it for 2 years, or whatever. I've only gotten one person knocking, and I literally was like, pointed at the no solicitation sign. I was like, it says no solicitations. I'm like, not trying. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, or whatever. I'm like, yeah, all right. But you're putting me in a position at that point, right? You're putting me in a situation. However, I have solar panels on the house, and my neighbor Gary has solar panels on the house, and he was trying to sell me on them because he gets a $500 rebate, of course, if I sign up with his name. But also, he's like, dude, I don't have an electric bill at all, which is dope. And so I had happened to have been walking through the neighborhood, and they were doing one of their little strike teams, and they intercepted me because he had sent them to my way when I was walking the dogs, and then we ended up getting the solar panels through those people. So I got God in that situation too, although I was going to get God, I guess, anyway. I was like, oh, this is very convenient because we wanted to get in touch with you.
Sure.
But it's funny that I feel bad for people that have to do that level of, I guess maybe it's good for actors maybe or something like that. Or I don't know. That level of rejection. How can you not, and that level of personal rejection, how can you not take that seriously, and how can that not make you upset? But anyway, Chris,
and people that can't do manual labor, right? People that can't they're not going to work at a produce section or a fast food place or even clothing retail. Maybe they're not, maybe they're not physically able. That's the only thing I could honestly think of. Else, why would you put yourself through that?
Yeah, that's classic. You're desperate.
Yeah, or the classic lie that we all do, which is when they do catch you, and they give you the out. Oh, is now not a good time? Yo, now's not a good time. Where can I go? You always follow up on that. Like, yeah, like an hour or two, and then you're not answering that phone again when it goes. So I definitely, once he got two calls, I was like, yeah, now's not a good time the third time you called. So whatever. But to your point on Colin about, the panels, I think another thing that contributed was, it was the right thing I needed at the right time.
They caught
right. So that also contributed. I'm like, actually, I do need, some solution for when I travel, kind of thing. But I'm curious, Chris, how's you been handling telemarketers? I figure your story might be funny.
I don't pick up the phone ever for these people. I've actually managed to every time I usually, if I do, because sometimes I'll get calls from numbers that I think look familiar, right? Or I'll be like, oh, maybe I know this person. Every time I get a new phone, I never transfer anything. I always kind of like start fresh. So like I don't transfer. I manually transfer the numbers that I think are important. And to me, it's like if I care enough about the person, I'll make the effort to manually put the number in. Otherwise, my phone's just full of people that I don't speak to anymore, and it's pointless. So every now and again, I'll get a phone call and I'll be like, oh, maybe this is somebody that I just forgot to put in the phone, and then I'll answer it. And then it'll be a voice that I don't recognize, and they'll be like, "We're calling about," and then I hang up. I don't. I have no stories about telemarketers at all because I don't dignify them with a response.
They don't survive long enough.
Yeah, I know there's like an empower. Like I know a lot of older people have like that empowerment story. Every 50-year-old or 60-year-old has a story where like, yeah, I picked up the phone and I told them to fuck themselves or whatever. And it's like, it doesn't do anything. Whatever. Like they're still gonna call you. They're just it's pointless. I don't even I don't really engage with it.
Have you guys ever had that switchboard experience where you answer the phone and it's voice prompted? It's not a robocall though. Mm-hmm. So they must have maybe, let's say a dozen people, and they won't talk until you first say hello, and then it's activated. Yeah. So you could in theory sit there for 5 minutes before anybody says anything. That's a fun one.
So ominous. You get a call and it's just silence.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, no, I really hate speaking to people that I don't want to speak to. Like I have so little time in general as a human being on this earth. Like I have a limited amount of time. I can't spend this time talking to telemarketers. I can't do it. And that's got to be a rough existence, but like it's not my problem.
Yeah, it's a lot to ask of people. Their time. There's only so much time.
I don't like talking on the phone in general to people that I know. I don't speak I don't speak to people I don't like speaking to people on the phone because we were talking about this a little bit on a more recent Sacred Symbols 2 where Colin was talking about it, where like you feel comfortable talking to people in person, but like something about voice chat or something is uncomfortable. And I'm the same way. Like I feel totally at home talking to people in person. But like the second if I just hear a voice, I feel like I'm missing like 80% of the context of what the person is saying, even if they're like clearly vocalizing like what they're trying to say to me. I feel like I need to be in the same room. I need to check the vibe. I need to like see what the person's face looks like. I need to like read body language. And like if I don't have any of that, I feel like I'm blind kind of. And there's also the implicit delay in voice communications where like there's like your timing of conversations is completely thrown off. You're like either waiting too long and then you start talking and then the other person talks and then you're like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's like I hate it. I hate that.
You don't have any of the cues.
Yeah, it's awful. It's like I really need those cues to be like even a remotely decent conversationalist. And if I don't have them, I'm just not going to do it. I pick up the phone for my mom maybe, and for people who I know if they're calling, it's a concerning thing. Yeah, for sure. What the hell do Yeah, why is he calling? That's crazy. Because calling to me is an emergency. Right. That's what it is. So if I'm getting an emergency call from a telemarketer, fuck no. Absolutely not.
Caller ID killed me, right, Kyle? Because our family really accuses me, and rightly so, of not even answering the phone for people that I should talk to.
Oh yeah, Dagan is notorious in our family for not talking on the phone.
Do you just look at it and you're like,
not now.
I'm not now.
There are only two people. There are two people in the world I'll talk on the phone to. Literally two people, and it's mom and dad. And they both know I don't want to talk on the phone. Dad understands, and I think is comfortable not really talking for, we'll talk for 2 hours and then we won't talk for like several months sometimes, right. Except for maybe some texting back and forth.
Yeah.
Where mom, I'm having breakfast with mom tomorrow actually, but she's like, oh, you got to call me more and stuff. I'm like, I don't.
She pushes it.
But I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm supposed to say. People think that's an asshole thing, but I'm like, no, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I don't want to bore you. I have nothing interesting to tell you right now. Nothing new is going on.
And anything that is interesting
I care about, you're not going to care about.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah. It's like, Mom, it's like, 73-year-old mom, do you want to talk about Final Fantasy 16?
She would listen to you talk about it, though.
She actually, dude, she was really. I lived with her when I was. Actually, no, I had just been visiting her when I was playing Death Stranding, and she was like mega into it. So she does have an eye, like she is interested and she listens to the shows and whatever, but generally speaking, I kind of do it more I kind of stay out of people's way more out of respect than anything else. Mm-hmm. It's like, you don't trust me, man. you have nothing you need to hear from me right now. If I have something that you really need to know, I'll let you know. But there's nothing you need to know right now. There's just nothing happening. I work
know.
and
You're better at it than me, though. Like, I'm shameless because there's nowhere to go for excuses now. I can't say and I've tried this, where I'm like, I didn't know it was you. And it's, Dagan clearly said dad on the caller ID. I don't, stop.
I try to vouch for Dagan. I try to vouch for him in some way because it's considered that I'm bad and and it's incredible how much worse Dagan is than me. It's basically the whole thing.
Always busy with something.
I'm shocked by this, Dagan. I'm
always busy.
I would have pegged it the other way.
It's not about busy. I just think look, man. I'm telling you, there are moments where I am not busy at all, and I look at my phone ring and I see like wow, and I look at it and I just think about you know what happens? I go through like this Doctor Strange, like I'm looking at every single possible reality
of what it could be.
That will occur if I pick up this phone right now. What conversation am I going to have if I pick up this phone? How long is it going to be? How much patience do I have? What do I have to say to really even keep a conversation going?
Yeah.
And by the time I'm done thinking about it, the call's missed, and it's like, oh well.
Yeah, that's that. I mean,
that's that. I'm really bad at it. I'm really bad at it because either I am busy or I just do not have. I just don't have it in me.
Yeah, it's energy.
It's energy.
Yeah,
it's energy, and it's a very specific type of energy where it's like I'll call if I feel like I need to call or if I feel like I have something to say or information that's important, and I'll text constantly. Like I'll that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but texting's good.
But a conversation is like a time limit thing. Like, because what I like about a text is like you can send the text and then you can get back to what you're doing. And there's no implicit pressure to respond super quickly unless the conversation is very, very specifically a time sensitive conversation.
Sure.
Whereas like in a phone call, it's like you got to respond. You got like maybe 10 seconds before you sound like a fucking idiot. So it's like, all right, well, what do you have to say? And you just scramble and you think of something and it's like the dumbest thing you've ever said because it's not interesting to even you, but you said it anyway. And it's, I don't know. I hate phone calls, man. I'm over
Clearly.
it. Yeah.
If I could delete the phone functionality from my phone, I would
totally. I would do the same thing or like just emergency only because I have my thing where my phone doesn't even acknowledge when I get phone calls or texts. Like it literally, I have to go to the thing and and see if I have. So because I just can't with the constant. It gives me agita. It just straight up. I just can't deal with it. I don't know why where that comes from. It bothered me when I was dealing with the builders of the house where it's like they just always wanted to be on the phone. I'm like, motherfuckers! I have said over and over again to email or text. And I got some feedback from some builder friends where they're like, you are the annoying customer that we can't just get answers from or whatever. And I'm like, but why do you always calling? You're always calling me. Why don't you just email me once a week with 7 questions? And then I'll get back to you on all those 7 questions the next day. And then we can go our separate ways instead of being on correspondence. Like I'm a fucking secretary or something wanting to talk to you all the time. I can't do it. I can't believe. And mom comes from the generation. Dad doesn't really give a shit if we talk on the phone or not. Mom comes from the generation where everyone's talking on the phone about goddamn everything. I mean, think about when we were kids. She was on the phone with fucking everybody all the time.
And they live next door.
Yeah, exactly. They would be like the neighbors next door or something.
That's just
crazy.
It's crazy.
What's weird?
I live really close to. I live, I think, like 2 blocks away from like a lot of my friends, basically in Burbank.
Yeah.
I'll just go. I'll be like, oh hey, what's up?
Show up in person.
I'll walk over or something. I would not think to call.
So it's not even an antisocial thing with you, Chris.
No, yeah. No, it's not. I like talking to people, but I like talking to people in person. Like I don't like even, and it's so funny because like I feel like from my generation it's almost like the opposite, like or the opposite of what you would expect, where it's like we grew up with the internet in some way. I think I kind of came into it really more than grew up with it, but we're really familiar with this stuff. Being in person is uncomfortable because like we're so used to the online. It's like for me, it's the exact opposite. And I guess in some way there is some aspect to it where it's like the phone calls are uncomfortable for me. And I know that was like a thing with that generation for a little bit, or my generation, where it's like, oh, you can't even order a pizza on the phone. I can order a pizza on the phone, let me tell you. If there's one thing I can do, that's the only time I'll call probably, is to be like, yeah, let me get a plain pie. Let me get a pepperoni pie, crispy, please. And then that's fine. 40 seconds. You always used to irritate me. Like I would watch my mom would be on the phone with the pizza people for like 5 minutes.
Why?
I don't know, because she talks. She's a conversational person. She's like, she speaks, and she's like, how you doing? Never gonna meet this person because I'm gonna go pick up the pizza. It's irrelevant. But yeah, so all my phone calls are really swift. And anytime I get I remember specifically getting a voice message from Colin. I was so scared. Like after Creator Clash, dude, Colin sent me a voice message. I was like, "Am I fired?" Like, it was like the most ominous. It was such a fucking ominous thing.
But it was. I totally understand that. It was intended as respect.
Yeah, I know. And I think I assumed that too, because what else would it be? But also you never call me.
No.
He never.
And there's no
calls
reason
anybody.
to, because we talk when we. It's almost better if we just talk on the show, because we have more to talk about. Otherwise we're just wasting it.
Back in the day, we used to call it save it. We used to say to each other, it's always sad. Save it for the show. I mean, we used to say it to each other at IGN. It was like, that's such a sad. I totally agree with you. Because I talk to you more than I talk to anyone in the entire world, I think, to be perfectly honest with you, Chris, except for maybe Micah. But
yeah, you, Chris, and Dustin. Yeah,
but yeah, it's strange. The I don't know. It's so funny, man. I have so many notes. There's so many funny things to say. There's so many funny spin-offs that have nothing to do with telemarketing that I'm thinking about now with phone calls. But I just think that you.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No,
I really derailed.
This is great.
Dude, here's the thing about phone calls. In my opinion, is that I think in historical sense, like talking via audio remotely is going to be looked at. That we'll always do it, and it'll always be a thing that can happen. But it'll be looked at as a very limited thing that happened in like this 100-year period. People have been writing correspondence with each other for goddamn ever. We still do that to this very day with our text messages. We're just doing it instantaneously. We're communicating really the same way we've been communicating for thousands of years in that sense. Like talking, it was so novel to be able to do that I think people just got out of control with it over the generations. And then you kind of almost had to justify. It's very convenient for business. I'm not saying any of that, but I think video will take over that, that.
I think it has for me. Yeah. Like anytime I have what would be considered a phone call, it's usually a video call. With like if my mom calls me, it's usually like a FaceTime. If I'm talking to my friends, it's usually a Discord, face to face kind of video call.
That's cool.
It is interesting because I remember, and I guess you guys would be more familiar with it because you guys are. I'm the youngest person in this group, really, but I remember specifically when that was like science fiction. like the idea of a video, like an instantaneous video call, that was like, whoa, wouldn't that be crazy?
It's like Inspector Gadget or some shit.
And then you could just do it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember just being like, that seems impossible. And then Skype exists, and then like suddenly like you can do it. It's funny. I remember Skype being so much better than it was. Skype sucks.
But it was, the smartphone itself is just a complete revolution. I went and looked at this is what I said to Chris. See if it comes.
Even the tone is ominous.
Oh, the creative clash.
Oh, is it? Oh, wait, sorry.
Did you lose it?
Speaker.
There we go. All right.
I was so scared. I was like, why is Colin sending me a voice message? Because I have friends who send me voice messages almost exclusively instead of texting.
Mm-hmm.
Like my friend Mick does that, but like never Colin.
Oh, somebody does that besides you, Kyle. That's amazing.
Yeah, I picked it up from people I knew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, here we go.
It is easier sometimes.
Here we go.
But
Chris, it's Colin. I know voice memos are annoying, but just wanted to let you know I was thinking about you. I'm real proud of you for accomplishing this great task. Thought it was incredibly unfair the way you were treated throughout this entire situation, but just wanted to let you know that I'm thinking about you, love you, proud of you. Well done. Get your life back. See you soon.
Yeah.
Salute.
Dude, that first line sounds so like what happened.
Effective immediately.
I saw what happened in the ring and effective immediately.
How dare you besmirch?
No, that's the same thing. When I talk to Ken Levine, and am I coming in louder than I was, or do I sound okay? Because I messed up the volume.
You sound fine.
Okay, good. When I talked to Ken Levine, we were talking on our conversation. I wrote him a letter because I have his home address for Christmas cards, because I love we send Christmas cards out, like everyone. And I love sending letters to people. I just write random letters to people all the time. I just wrote a random letter to our brother-in-law Derek for Father's Day. And so I wrote Ken a letter, and that's how we ended up getting him on the show. Although we talk behind the scenes about other things as well. So I try to show people like a deeper respect when it's time, either by sending a letter or like a voice memo is kind of like that or whatever, a video or something, just to, because I feel like it's, I don't know. I feel like people, we've talked about this in the past. It's kind of like, I get people do the best they can, but you get your Christmas cards, right? You get them printed, you send them out to people if you want, if you do that kind of thing. And I get it's a picture. It says Merry Christmas from the Moriartys or whatever. But I write on the back of every Christmas card, like an individual note to each person. And I get annoyed that not many people do that. I want people to be more intentional towards me. And so I try to show them more intention too. The exact opposite of the telemarketer.
Yeah, really, yeah, seriously.
True indeed.
Are you satisfied on the topic?
Yeah, this is great.
All right, awesome. All right, that was a good topic. Thank you for bringing that to the table. I hope I want to know more, by the way, Cog, if that guy gets back to you. Again,
your best friend.
If you hear from him again. All right, let's see. Dig, let's go to you, my friend.
All right, let's do this, you guys. So today I want to talk to you all about brand loyalty. You label whores, you. And you could take this in a myriad of directions. When I pass the baton, you guys run with it as you might. Sure. And talk about anything. Talk about foods you like, food products you like, clothing. It could be cars, electronics, video games, software developers that you like. Just sort of the things that you respond to that you go in for every time based on the brand name. I'll tell you what made me think of it. My son is really into snacks. Obviously, he's 12. He just eats like a gavone. Like, he just eats like crazy. He's nonstop feeding his face. And he loves potato chips. So I buy like the big Costco boxes of little bags of chips for their lunch, right? And I always try to get something good, like a variety pack or Wise or one of those brands. And he said to me the other day, he's like, Dad, it's got to be Hers brand. And I was like, Hers? That's kind of random. And I kind of suspected where he was going. And I was like, why? Is it like a Philly thing? And he was like, yeah, it's a Philly thing. Got to represent Hers. And I was like, all right, I guess that's kind of cool. That's the first time he's ever expressed Philadelphia pride in any, besides the 76ers. He's a Sixers fan. So I was kind of amped on that, but it got me to thinking, like, I grew up going through the different phases with gear and Nikes and a skateboard brand that girl skateboards would always be my thing, like growing up. But I was thinking of one thing that it applies to my life right now because I'm going to be shopping for a car. So I finished making the payments on my car and my current car, and our daughter, my oldest, she's 16. She's driving now. She's got her learner's permit, and she's going to need a car. So my car is paid for, and I kept the mileage really low so I could get a nice return on my car right now, pay something, put a nice down payment for her car, and then I'll have to buy a new car for myself. So, but here's the thing. I'm a pretty big car guy. I don't talk about it a lot on the show, but it's one of my hobbies. I pay attention to what's going on in the car world. Modern cars, not classic cars or anything. I'm not that savvy. But one brand that I always sort of went in for in terms of quality and sort of recognized as something that is worth buying.
I just realized I forgot to. We'll keep the audio. I forgot to start the video.
Oh,
sorry. We'll keep the audio.
Yeah, you sure?
Yeah, no. Just keep going. It's just 3 minutes. Sorry, I forgot to start the video. We'll do a clapstick at the end.
Okay,
I'll write it down now.
So I want to talk to you guys about Toyota. Okay, always been a big mark for this car brand because of the quality, and it's not a Japanese thing. I know I'm a weeb. Maybe that's part of it, but Toyota cars have always, I've had a few, they were always bulletproof in terms of reliability, in terms of quality, in terms of, I would say all the Toyotas that I own, Toyotas, Scions, they were always the best money that I've ever spent on anything. Like if I spent $20,000 on a Toyota, it was the best 20 grand I ever spent, right? And when I went to get a new car, I guess it was 4 years ago now, I was lucky enough. I was going to go buy my first luxury car, and I knew damn well it should have been a Lexus. I knew I should have
Stay
went
with
for
the family.
Lexus. It was time to upgrade, stay in the Toyota family, but stay with Toyota. And I didn't. I went in, I got a German car. I won't say what brand it is. And it was fine. The quality's been fine. And you know what? I kept the mileage low. I'm going to get a nice trade-in on it. And now I'm kind of back in that same situation where I'm going to be buying a nicer car. And I know it should be a Lexus. And I don't know. I might go for another brand, another luxury brand that's not a Lexus. So, and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm doing that.
God forbid you buy an American car. Holy shit.
Oh, Jesus, no.
No. God.
Oh, man.
Come on. You could
Buy
be
a Cadillac
American
or
and not
something,
buy
dude.
American cars.
Cadillacs are really cool. My dad had a Cadillac when I was a kid, and it was a really, really cool car. But I was a kid and I loved it. He hated it.
Did he hate it?
Yeah, he liked the way it looked, but it was like just the least like it was so bad as a car. Like, and like to get parts for it were just it's like a nightmare.
Yeah. Chevy General Motors, they went through a bad period. I think they're back in terms of quality, actually. But we went through a bad. Helene had a couple of back-to-back Chevys, and back early in our marriage, I would say, and we had a bad time. But as I understand it, American cars are back and somewhat reliable.
They're better, yeah, than they used to be, for sure.
But I was thinking about this in terms of Lexus because I know I should jump into the Lexus fray, and I might not. But I don't know why. You know, that's the thing. It just got me thinking about the different labels that I've followed, and maybe you guys have been burnt. Maybe you guys followed, stuck to a brand name your whole life, thought about it, tried to support it, and then got burnt. I don't know. So when I hand it over to you, take it wherever you want, whatever you think of. Cog, our esteemed guest, I'll start with you. What do you think of this brand loyalty bit?
Fun topic. We definitely share some similarities as far as Toyota, because that was literally my first car. It was my first car. I was used. I was getting an IT job. I didn't have the requirements for the job, which was you had to have a car. They was like, you live in the Bronx, you have to get the Connect. Oh yeah, I have it. I applied. So I'm scrambling. I literally got my driver's license in 1 week, and I did double lessons. And I was like, I need a car. Like I had to. So then I'm researching cars, and I'm like, all right. After I got the license, my mom was super impressed. She was like, I cannot believe you did all this. This is insane. Like, you knew nothing about driving. I'm like, I'm getting this job.
And you're from the Bronx to Connecticut?
Wow.
I mean, that's fucking horrifying.
Bro, I was on I-95, bro. I-95.
You know what's weird?
Fun.
That's a rough trek, but it's not as crazy as you would assume it.
It's simple.
It's actually like weirdly close.
Yeah, it's
close.
It's a straight shot. It's a straight shot.
Oh, I just don't want to drive anywhere in New York City.
Oh, yeah. I feel you on that.
Driving in Manhattan's hell, but
yeah,
the Bronx is a little bit more manageable. But yeah, you don't even need a car down there, really.
Yeah, technically, you don't. In New York,
you don't want me to drive anywhere. Go on, God.
So yeah, I was thinking about it. I was just like, okay, what car do I know nothing about cars. And I'm speaking to people and like, yo, get a Toyota, bro. Like, at least from a reliability standpoint, you ain't got to worry about parts. You try to be too fly, get too foreign, and you're going to have I used to speak to King, and he'd be like, look, I got this car. Look at all these problems. And Chris is talking about, like, it's in the shop all the time. So I'm like, yeah, I can't be affording that. And it was a white Toyota 4Runner. That was my baby. It was a used, like a 99 joint. And yeah, that was the thing, man. I was so loyal to it, and it treated me well, And what's beautiful about that car is that when anything did wrong happen, luckily I had money at the time. Like cars go wrong when you don't have money. So Toyota, I would have shouted about. Big Android guy. I'm a big Android guy. I like the freedom of my apps and that kind of stuff. So I would say that. Obviously, wearing the Genesis shirt.
Nice.
Big Sega kid. It was just something about the arcades, and remember going there and seeing these big arcade units. And I'm like, oh, I remember that logo, the SEGA, the blue, the font. You know what I mean? And then when they came out with a console, it was literally it was the loyalty to my arcade experience, which made me a Sega kid.
I love that.
With the Master System, and then obviously the Genesis was the high part. I got laughed at the Master. I was like the only person with a Master System. All the cool kids had Nintendo, and I was jealous. I remember going over and I was like, man, that Mike Tyson Punch Out looks so much better. And Zelda, I was jealous, I admit. But I had my fanboy revival when Genesis came out. Like, yeah, look what we could do.
Hell
Even though
yeah.
Colin made fun of Altered Beast at the thing. It was dope to me. I saw big sprites.
Yeah, the biggest sprites you've ever seen, taking up half the screen.
Taking up half the screen was a terrible game, but the year of the package. So I would say that. Lately, Trader Joe's. I've been a nice fan of them. I feel like it's kind of suiting my healthy needs. I've been going away from the commercial general supermarket that, get more healthy and organic stuff. I found out a lot of things there from them. And then the last thing I'll say from like forgotten, I would say I want to shout out some forgotten brands because like rest in peace, my grandfather, like I come from the era of the big back TV. Where this TV looked like wooden furniture in your house, and it's heavy as hell.
It looked like a station wagon.
Yeah, it looked like a straight-up station wagon. So, like, I just remember the pride this man would have. It was like, we're gonna get us a Zenith TV.
Oh, Zenith.
Bro, I used to have to, I was responsible for cleaning this TV. I had to have polish and I had to clean the TV because it was a wooden furniture.
Yeah.
But it was a big deal. It was a color TV in the house and it was 25-inch or whatever it was. It was like, this was iconic living in, like, oh, wow, you have a color TV. I've wanted, oh, wow, you got a Zenith? Like, it was that era. So it was kind of funny. And the funny one that I want to shout out is actually that Guardians of the Galaxy made fun of. I think I was the only Zune lover. I'm a Zune apologist.
Wow.
I thought it was so cool for what they were trying to do, and they got destroyed by Apple.
Yeah, they tried.
Yeah, so they tried. So those are my fun kind of brands and ones that I was loyal to.
That's awesome.
What about you, Chris? I'm curious what brands you're loyal to.
I had such a big smile on my face as we were all talking about cars because it's the same exact thing for me. I have stuck with Toyota pretty much my entire driving life. And anytime I have deviated from Toyota, it's been a fucking nightmare. Like every time I would come home for the holidays or whatever, I'd be like, oh yeah, let me rent a car while I'm home and let me just try out, I don't know, a Nissan. Horrendous. We try maybe fucking around with a Jeep. Why not? I'm renting, whatever. Horrible. And it's just like, wow, my first car was a 2004 silver Toyota Corolla. And I loved that thing. That thing was so reliable. That thing lasted forever. My mom drove it into a lake and that was what did it in. But even then, by the way,
she found a way.
Black ice is crazy, man.
Wow.
It's nuts. Oof. But she didn't even tell me until like 3 weeks later that it happened.
I'm here feeling about it.
He's like, oh, hey, by the way, the car's gone.
Oh,
and I was like, okay, Mom, that's fine. But because I was in LA and I left the car home because we live in the sticks and I need a car here more than I needed in LA. And even then, like they dragged it out of the lake and they were like, we could get this thing running totally fine again. And I was like, you're kidding. It was like, no, we can. It's just going to be, logically speaking, you should just get a new car because the cost it would take to get this car back to the state that it should be in would just, you're better off putting it into a new car. We could get it running again, that was crazy to me. I was like, that's insane. I believe it too, because that thing just like never had any issues. It would have like the occasional recalls, but they would handle that. And it would just be like, it would be perfect.
Yeah.
And it drove well. I loved it. It had like a tape deck and a CD player in it. No aux.
Nice.
No aux. So I had this tape deck adapter.
The adapter, yes.
That I would plug in, and it would have like a little cord coming out, and I could plug my phone in, and it would get like it would have all this. I would play Spotify through it, and it would have this like tinge of like tape warp to it.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was fun, man. I had a bunch of CDs in it that I burned because I couldn't necessarily rely on my phone all the time. But I love Toyota. My car now, the one that I got in, I think around a little bit before the pandemic, it was it's the same thing. It's a modern. It's like a 2018 red Toyota Corolla. I don't remember what the letters are. LE, LS. I don't know what the fuck. And it's super. I love it. Still, it drives perfectly. I've got no problems with it. Every time there's a problem, they take care of it. I stand by Toyota a lot. Like, and if I ever have to get another car, for whatever reason, although I'm really kind of adamant that I don't want to buy another one. Like if this car is dead, it's like whatever. Like at that point, I don't want another one because I kind of resent the fact that so many places are built around the necessity of owning a car. Like it really bothers me. But I'm probably never going to go outside of Toyota. I like them a lot.
They're
but as far as
so reliable.
Yeah, no, I love them. And they drive well too. They're nice cars too. Like they look nice. I don't know. Like I got no problem with it. Like I don't need some fucking. I don't need some crazy fucking. I don't know, some mega futuristic like 10,000.7 million horsepower fucking. I don't need that shit. I don't care. I don't know enough about cars to even know if that's even important. You know. So sticking with that. But as far as anything else, like I don't know if I have. And we've talked about this on Sacred too before. But like I don't. Even like shampoos and soaps, like I don't really like.
That's right.
I'll go to the store and I'll just, if I see something that's like, oh, shampoo, I'll just nab it off the, like I won't even, I have things that I'll maybe look for. Like I like this Method Men body wash stuff. And like, I do like, there's this soap called African Black Soap that I love.
Oh yeah.
It's like a bar of like exfoliating. So it's really, really good. It smells amazing. It smells like you want to eat it almost. It's like, it's fucking delicious smelling. Mm-hmm. But that's not super readily available everywhere. So like if I can't find it, I'll just like, I don't know, soap, whatever. I don't care. Toothpaste, I don't care. Colgate, whatever. It's toothpaste. I figure if they're selling it to me, it does what it's supposed to do. You know? Otherwise it wouldn't be selling it. At least it does it enough. Yeah. It's not like they're selling mustard in a tube and saying it's toothpaste, you know? So I don't know. Like I've never really had that big of a loyalty. I've always had like preferences. Like I like Sony headphones and, you know, and things like that, but I'll never write things out. Even to the point with phones, I have an iPhone now, but there was a point in time where if my phone would run its course and my phone would die, and then I would swap to the other. If my iPhone died, I would swap to Android. And then when my Android died, I would swap back to iPhone, see what's going on over there.
That's rare. You and then when my iPhone, have brand loyalty.
No, I really.
That's gangs.
No, I don't care. I wanna see as much as possible. As far as like, I had a Windows phone for a little bit too. I thought that I honestly, weird thing about Microsoft is like I feel bad for them in some way because like they always make cool shit that just isn't sexy. Yeah. The Windows phone was cool as hell. Like I really liked that phone like a lot. Mm-hmm. But it was just like it just did not catch on. The Zune is another one. Same. Where like I had experience with iPods and my friend brought the Zune over. And I remember it was like the Halo 3 limited edition one, which was such a nice looking Zune. Yes. And I was using it and I was like, this is kind of amazing. Like this is kind of a really great piece of tech. And I had like a Surface for a little bit too, and like I really liked it. Like they make really good shit, but they don't hit for some reason. And it's always sad for them. But I don't know, man. I don't, that brand loyalty thing just isn't, I don't got it. As far as, and even Toyota, like it's not so much that I'm loyal to Toyota, it's that like everything I've tried that isn't Toyota just doesn't work as well. Or like I just don't like it as much. If I drove like some random Nissan in 2030 that was like amazing, I'd probably get the fucking Nissan. But you know, I don't care really. I just want to know what things are like, and I want to experience them. And if they're cool, I'll make note of it. And if not, then I'll make note of that. And it's whatever. Cool.
I like that sense of exploration, though. It's pretty brave to do with tech because tech's not as expensive as an automobile, but it's still pretty.
Yeah. I mean, I've had Macs and PCs. I have a dual setup right now. I have a MacBook and my PC, and I use them for different things. And I definitely have preferences. Yeah. You know, I do music stuff on the MacBook because that's like the only real thing. But like everything else, like the PC's great.
I like both too. I'm with you on that. Both. No preference for that at all. Kyle, there's one that I assume is going to come up with you, but let's hear it, my friend.
What's the brand that you think?
I think you're going to have to bring up Boar's Head.
Oh, yeah, definitely. See, we'll start with food. So this was an interesting topic for me to kind of think about because I am very brand loyal. I think a lot of that comes from my own personal risk aversion, kind of the slight autism that we make fun of on Sacred Symbols sometimes. You know, like you get stuck. I'm very much a man of rhythms. I play the drums. Right?
Yeah.
I like going to the same restaurant over and over again because I like it. I like eating the same thing over and over again because I like it. I like when I like a pair of pants, it's like I'm getting only that pair of pants. When I find a pair of shoes, it's like I'm only wearing those shoes. And I'm very consistent. I've had my ears pierced for more than 20 years. You know, like come and gone like 3 times in fashion, and they just stay there, right? So I think that when I sat and thought about it, I'm like, yeah, I am actually loyal to a lot of brands, or have been loyal to a lot of brands in the past. But food, obviously, Boar's Head to me is Boar's Head's a little bit of a Long Island thing and they're not a Long Island company, but just as far as that's the standard. That's like what in New York, that's what you eat. You don't.
That's pretty much all of New York, I think, and probably like East Coast in general. I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
like I go to BJ's, like the Price Club or whatever, and it's like I like buying things there. There's like good product at good prices, but then you get to the deli and it's garbage.
Yeah,
it's just trash. Like, why would I ever buy this? Why would you ever, when you can go to Publix, why would you ever go here to buy meat? That Boar's Head is that much better. It's really shocking to me that like the cold cut game has just been totally given to them. No one can compete. It's like not even close.
I like the idea of these cold cut gangsters, like, like a freezer, like a freezer with like a desk in it. we got to do something about Boar's Head.
And when I was trying to court them as an advertiser, Chris was kind enough to remind them that they slaughter animals on a mass scale, so they're probably not going to be too into us.
You said specifically, like, I don't know if they'd be okay with how crass we get, and I was like, they sell dead animals, like they kill murderers. Like, I mean, we need it. I'm glad they do it. It's so delicious.
No, I'm not judging it at all. I don't think they'd really be interested in the show anyway.
What?
So yeah, food. And then there are other ones with food that I'm like mega loyal to too. Heinz ketchup. I eat a lot of ketchup. I put ketchup on everything.
Yeah.
Heinz all the way.
We love you anyway.
Hellman's mayonnaise has traditionally been, I've been a stalwart for Hellman's mayonnaise, known west of the Rockies as best food, of course, same product. And it literally says that on the back of the jar, which is my favorite thing. West of the Rockies, it is known as this other thing. But Hellman's, that's where I bring out the best comes from. The old slogan.
Yes.
So, but moving to the South, down here in the South, I started eating Duke's mayonnaise. And Duke's mayonnaise, a Southern tradition, is very, very good. But I've recently gone back and swerved back to Hellman's. Yeah, so I'm back with Hellman's. So maybe not super loyal there. Exactly, I'm a flip-flopper. I wanted to taste it. It's like I was having an affair with Duke's. But we cut it off and I realized that what I had at home was better.
Okay.
You know? Potentially.
Respected.
And then I've actually vacillated between Coke and Pepsi throughout my life, but the last 3 years, I drink 1 can of Pepsi a day with dinner. And then it's just, a couple 12 packs a month or whatever. And a little more than that, I guess. And I've been on Pepsi now for like 3 consecutive years. I just love having either Pepsi or Coke, and then Tropicana orange juice. I mean, come on, man. Tropicana orange juice. Going to the deli, getting like an egg sandwich, and getting the Tropicana that you poke the straw through.
Oh man, yeah. Food is a whole nother. Man, that's a whole. But I feel like that's probably like the most common brand loyalty, isn't it? Because like, I feel like,
for sure.
I feel like people will definitely get into rhythms.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
More so than anything.
And you don't
else.
even think about it.
No.
Like I just have a brand loyalty to Bounty, or whatever. Like, the best, just like. But it's not any other reason than it just worked. It's not like I give a shit about what we'll buy, whatever. I guess the high quality paper towel is.
Have you ever used Viva?
Yeah, I've used Viva. That's like a mid-tier one.
The ones that peel.
Yeah.
Dude. I love those.
The perforations.
Those they really did solve like, why did you need so much paper towel? You don't always need so much paper towel. And then as far I just wrote a few fast food things down that I thought were interesting. For the standard, like anywhere in the world, literally anywhere in the world, food, McDonald's. When I've been overseas and it's like I just need something safe.
Something I can trust. Yeah.
I've been dodging seafood in Japan for days, not knowing if there's fish in anything I'm eating. I just need a burger. Got to give it a shout out to McDonald's and Five Guys, which is just the superior. I love Five Guys. There's a new shopping center opening up near our house, and we're hoping and praying that they'll put a Five Guys in there. I don't know why we
Is
think
Five Guys overseas? Did they go out of
No
North
way.
I
America?
don't know. I've never had it overseas.
I can't
but-
imagine that. It seems so, like a Five Guys in Europe feels like almost like like a U.S. military base.
Yes.
It feels so
It's not
more
right.
so than McDonald's to me. I don't know why, but yeah, I mean, food is like a whole. That's a big. Because I know for me it used to be Snapple. Snapple, like I loved Snapple.
The glass bottle era.
The glass bottle, man. And like just like a glass bottle lemon tea. You pick it up at like some deli or some gas station or whatever. And it's
So good.
always just the most refreshing thing I've ever had. And then they stopped doing glass.
They dropped the ball.
And then I stopped drinking it. Because like that's the whole reason this was special in the first place.
I think
Bottom of the pop.
pop.
The
Yes.
bottom.
You know what's crazy? They stopped making it, and I found like a stat. I have them still.
Oh, you got
Shout
it on
out to the
stash.
Snapple, baby.
I got
got
the
the stash. Let's
The glass.
go.
I'm never opening this.
No,
It's like a
don't
Fallout
ever open
shelter.
that.
Yeah, it's like Fallout. This is the last glass Snapple on the Eastern Seaboard. I'm pretty sure. And when I die, when I'm on my fucking deathbed, when I'm dementia ridden in my bed at like 49, because that's my time frame. I'm anticipating.
That stuff was
I'm
so
gonna-
good.
I'm gonna do that.
There it goes.
And then I'll die.
Classic.
And then I'll
Love
die. But
Yeah, that's just like emotion. That was just like muscle memory when you'd get one of those, man.
yeah, dude.
But
I love it.
you'd get it. I remember getting it at the deli and doing it and drinking it before you even get to the counter, to pay for
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
You already threw like half of it.
You read like a little fake. You read the misinformation on the cap.
Yeah.
Like,
Why did they
it's-
change it?
I don't know, man. It's crazy to be like. They had some reason, but it's all bullshit. Like I don't know. I think it's just cheaper. It's literally just cheaper to make glass, and it's cheaper to ship glass, or it's cheaper. It's cheaper to make plastic, and it's cheaper
Than
to
the
ship
glass.
plastic because plastic.
Sure, shipping
isn't as
sure,
heavy.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's
yeah.
literally the only reason. It's literally just to cut costs. But like in my opinion, they've ruined pretty much. Because dude, glass affects the taste of what you're drinking.
Oh,
it affects
huge.
how cold your drink can get. Literally, like if you put a glass bottle of anything and a plastic bottle of anything in the same fridge, the glass one's going to taste better and it's going to be way colder.
so much colder.
Like so, it's crazy to me that they did that. It's weird. It's almost like this plastic that they use is like. It's almost like heated plastic. So, like I don't know. I take it out of the fridge and I'm like, was this even in here? It's so bizarre. But something that's always been a consistent for I'm a big tea coffee guy, and it's Arizona iced tea has always been just like there. It's always just been there. Like it's for as long as I can remember, those tall cans,
yeah,
the little juice boxes at like barbecues, the big jugs. I don't know. That's something that I'll probably continue to buy until I die. It's just this little reliable thing. Fast food, Five Guys is up there. I really like Chipotle personally.
Yeah,
Like I understand. I understand what it is, but like it's pretty consistent from what I've experienced. But food is like man. And one thing is like New York pizza. I will never not like. I don't even care where it's from really. Like,
but you have to have a spot as a New Yorker.
I do have a spot, but like my spot isn't necessarily the best pizza. Like my spot, the where I go a lot is Joe's Pizza in oh my god, Union Square.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly. I think it's like next to Trader Joe's. But that's where I go all the time, and it's not the best pizza in the city, but it's my favorite because I go there. They got the big sign on the wall. It's like, you know us from Spider-Man 2, and there's all these like ridiculous there's all these ridiculous photos of like Conan O'Brien and fucking Gorbachev getting a slice or whatever. It's just a ridiculous place, and it's consistent. It's like it's really good. It brings back memories of like when I was like really, really young. There's definitely better places, but I love the vibe of that place.
That's your place.
And also you can just walk around Union Square like immediately after eating a pie or eating a slice, and you're just watching squirrels beat each other up and a man stomping a pigeon into dust.
Up, baby. Union Square.
Other things that I wrote down, we can go quick. I think we can maybe all relate to this in some way. Maybe not Chris, but it is technically brand loyalty. It's just like my love of the Jets and the Islanders is a serious brand loyalty thing. I spend so much money on merch and just attention. Like my attention, my eyeballs are monetizable in that sense. So definitely those two entities in sports, the Jets in football, obviously the Islanders in hockey, and then PlayStation.
Of course.
I'm mega brand loyal to PlayStation.
I imagine there's like sub loyalties within that, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's funny you say that. Yeah, I wrote that down. I wrote PlayStation down. They've really earned my loyalty. Since I became a PlayStation consumer in 1997, Dagan got his in 95, so I was messing with his, but I got my own in the early fall, like Final Fantasy VII came out in September of 97. That's when I got mine. And PlayStation has treated me pretty consistently very, very well when I needed them to, and they kind of served their role in some way. I think PS3 was strange and not great for a while, but they really turned it around. I think PS3 ended up being a very strong console. And then PS4 obviously speaks for itself. And I think PS5 is doing great, where we are arguably, as we talked about recently on Sacred Symbols, in what could be defined as the greatest year in video games history right now. So it's hard to be too mad at what PlayStation is doing, even though PS5 hasn't really contributed at an exclusive to that yet of consequence. They will later with Spider-Man. But PlayStation has earned my respect and my love. I treat them like a sports team, though, where I beat the piss out of them a lot and make fun of them a lot and question everything they do and think they're wrong about all these different things. So I really enjoyed that relationship. And I had that relationship with the Nintendo, the Wii era, and it would be fun to really go into this one day. I don't know where it would be appropriate, but
come on, punching up.
Punching up, yeah, I guess. I don't know if the punching up audience would want to hear too much about this, though, is that and Dagan knows, I mean, Dagan's the only one that would really know this firsthand because he knew me at the time, obviously, is that like I was a fucking Nintendo fanboy like you wouldn't even believe.
I would love to hear this.
When I was a kid, man. Like that's what's so funny about people beating me up as a PlayStation fanboy or whatever. I'm like, you have no idea, dude. Like I was so far up Nintendo's ass when I was a kid. And, you know, obviously NES, SNES, N64, GameCube.
I think most kids were.
Right, exactly. You know? And the Wii era, it's funny, I remember Mark Ryan, who will be at my wedding, and others used to make fun of me during the early Wii era because I really tried. When third-party games would come out, I would be like, I'm going to play it on Wii, right? I'm going to try. And I really got into like 2007 and 2008, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore, man. And PlayStation was always there with me. I always enjoyed PlayStation. PS1 was a very seminal console for me because of the JRPGs. PS2 was probably the least important and my least favorite PlayStation console of all.
Me too.
I was I had it day one. I had a shit ton of games on it, but I was really into GameCube, like hardcore. And then late in that generation, I was really into Xbox. I mean, I got really into like Rainbow Six 3 and Halo 2 and random games that I was playing at that time. So I was all scatterbrained at that point.
Yeah.
And then when I was in college during this era, I was playing mostly handheld, like PSP, GBA, DS, and some things on the side. And then when I finally got my job at IGN, I just PlayStation was always kind of this secondary thing where it's like just there's a bunch of games I care about. It wasn't really about exclusives back then. PlayStation really wasn't about exclusives. It was about genre specific things. I got my Japanese gaming fix, my action RPGs, JRPGs, all of that there. It really became, they combined like a first party provenance beginning with the PS3, late PS2 era, really maybe with God of War and other things, and then rose into that dominant position and just totally shoved Nintendo away. And Wii broke me. I mean, I think the Wii was a travesty. I really do. It's so sad, it was a cool attempt. There's no denying the seminal cultural impact of the Wii. It's probably the most impactful piece of gaming hardware ever from a like a generalized grandma plays Wii bowling, out the fucking Wiimotes for grandpa so we can golf. Like it was crazy. I mean, I totally know. I remember it. 2006, 2007, 2008, people were going nuts about that stuff at Christmas, Thanksgiving. Yeah, definitely. But I just was like, I can't do it. And then when I was on the ground with the Wii, when I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, they released the 3DS and just beat the shit out of me because I was like, this thing sucks. I hate it. Why is it so? I loved the GBA and I really loved Nintendo DS. I love Nintendo DS.
DS is great.
It was awesome. The GBA was awesome too. They really aborted it very quickly, but you could play those games on DS. So everything worked. Like the DS was awesome. And I just feel like, man, I'm out. I can't do it anymore. And
that
so
broke me too, I think.
Yeah, I'm broke. I really have no interest in Nintendo anymore. I've shut them off. And I know that's weird for a lot of people, but I'm just not going down that road again.
Come on, this direct was so good.
It was a really good direct.
So good. Yeah.
So good. It was excellent. Kyle, let me interrupt you for 1 second.
Yeah, please. I'm sorry.
I'm
going on.
audience. So I have this collection of people. I'm very interested. You guys are all notorious video gamers. Let's go one level deeper. It's going to be hard to pick just one. Let's go outside of console. Let's go to developer. Developer comes out with a new game. Could be old or new, or been around forever like Activision. Who's your one developer? They put something out. They have your immediate attention. They have your immediate dollar. Let's say.
Easy.
I'll go first. Capcom. For me, it's always going to be Capcom. And for all you doubters, go play Resident Evil 4 Remake. Okay.
This is
you play Monster Hunter?
No, I never got into that series.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying that this is the other thing. I'm saying that based on two specific franchises that I've always been in love with.
That makes sense.
So you're saying on a publisher level or a developer level?
A developer level. Let's say
on a developer level. Okay, that's easier. That's easier.
I got it.
A creator.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think me and Chris is the same.
Yeah, Bungie.
Yeah, Bungie. I have to be honest. Yeah, like both created the soundtrack to my gaming life for the most part. I mean, yeah, if whatever they do, they give me so much enjoyment. And my hours speak for itself. Even when they do their things that annoy me or flawed, I'm there because of the experience. I can't find that anywhere else. That level of gunplay, shooting, and stuff.
It's crazy, really. Like it's really a little scary when I think about the impact that studio has had on my life specifically, like the trajectory of my life. Like I really don't think I would be doing any of this at all if not for that studio. It's crazy because like I met most of my friends through those games, and because I met most of my friends through those games, those are the friends that I made through high school. And because those are the friends I made through high school, those are the friends that I followed to Los Angeles. Those are the friends that I made YouTube videos with, and they all kind of fell off YouTube, but I stayed. And
that's huge.
And it's like I started making YouTube videos like I would make machinima videos because you could make like all these movies because you could detach the camera and make. I would place a webcam in front of the TV. That's how primitive this shit was, and I would like film. I would like make like. Do cinematography and all this bullshit, and it's the reason why my channel exists. It's the reason why I know the people that I know now. It's the reason why any of this took off in the first place. And when I think about that and like what I would be doing, I don't know, maybe it'd be better. Who the fuck knows? No. But like the fact that it would be so drastically different is an unignorable thing. And even without that connection, they just sincerely have just consistently put out some of my favorite shit. Like even when they fumble with like stuff like Osiris.
Osiris. Yeah, that was a low
like
time.
some weird expansion that doesn't hit. Like I don't know, man. Like that soundtrack, those stories, that gunplay, that gameplay. Marathon, I'm sold on already. I don't know. I don't know much about extraction shooters. But I loved what they did with Marathon back in the 90s. I thought it was so cool. I never played like Myth and stuff like that. I actually should. I think I might want to go back and like maybe delve into
Halo was supposed to be a game like Myth, right?
Halo was supposed to be an RTS.
Right, just like Myth was an RTS, right?
Yeah, it was a sci-fi. Yeah. It was a sci-fi RTS, and then they pulled the camera in, made it a third-person shooter, and then they made it a first-person shooter later. That's why those levels are so big. Which is like so interesting. It's like the etymology of or like the taxonomy of what that game came from is because anybody making a shooter at that time wasn't building it like that, because why would you? And I don't know. They have my attention always. I'll still, they did that whole art thing recently where they plagiarized that dude's art. I think they did settle that though, didn't they?
Yeah, they made it right. They fixed it.
They paid him or something.
It was like a third party that did.
Yeah, it was like an outsourced. It was like an outsourced thing. That's what I figured it was.
Yeah,
but we'll still call him out. Obviously, Destiny 2 is in like a weird spot right now, and I think that's definitely worth criticizing. Absolutely, but good times, bad times. Like Bungie's been just there, and the fact that there's so many people who are still there, like Christopher Barrett and these people, and that they're still there, that speaks, I don't know, that speaks a lot. A lot of people have left, obviously, because that's the nature of game development. Joe Staten's not there no more. Obviously, Marty O'Donnell's gone. But the fact that you have so many key people there, Christopher Barrett and a lot of these other people, I think Lars Bakken is still there too. Nuts. And I'll always pay attention to that.
Just to add on to what you said about the personal effect of Bungie and why it has to be them for me, literally my IT trajectory is started because of them. Because when Halo Combat Evolved came out, I knew nothing about what an Ethernet cable was, networking. But when people told me, hey, if we get 4 TVs, and it was me, King, Solve, and we all got TV, and then I found out what a Linksys router was, and I'm like, if we connect all this, we can play together. And people were literally bringing TVs to my house so they could play local LAN Halo. Like it was foreign it was huge.
They are an underestimated studio as far as the level of their importance to the industry goes. I think I sincerely like the pioneering they did on Xbox Live and like basically inventing like the friends list and the infrastructure for like what would become like the PSN and Xbox Live as we know it, and just all this stuff, and the fact that like without that game the Xbox would have probably failed entirely. That shaped the entire. Their impact is crazy. It's not like Wii level, obviously. It's not like it ain't like Mario where like it basically like, you know, boomed the industry back again from the brink of death. But like in the grand scheme of like developers that have like impacted the industry in like irreversibly traceable ways, like I think Bungie's like really up there.
Yeah, they definitely advanced the culture
in a way that I think a lot of people don't really think about because they just do Destiny now.
I will say this as far as Sony is that I really have no affiliation with their electronics. My first computer was a Sony Vaio in 1996, and my first TV was a Sony. But we've reflected before, and I really learned this more from our dad, even with Consumer Reports and everything, is that Sony's not really that well regarded anymore compared to the way they like with some of their competitors in electronics, like pound for pound. So I always just went in other directions. I have no real like electronics loyalty with my general consumer electronics, except for 2 things, which is Apple phones, and totally love Apple phones, and I totally get why people don't like it, and if you're much more sophisticated and you want more choice and all of that, but dude, the iPhone is fucking awesome. I mean, it's amazing. Did you see that thing?
Did you see that thing that I don't know if it's new or it's the first time I saw it, where you just hold phones next to each other to swap contact information or whatever?
Yeah.
You just like give somebody your number by holding your phone next to them.
It's dope.
It's crazy.
Like,
it's nuts.
And I got my watch like, you know, a couple months ago now, and I don't really do very much with it, but it's super awesome. Like I love it. And I use the base like SE models of all the things. I still have the phone with the button on it.
Oh yeah.
Because and people are like, why don't you spend more money? It's like, I don't want anything too sophisticated. Like it does exactly what I want it to do. I love it. It's perfect. And so but then I also have an affinity for Microsoft. I'm a big Windows person. When I was at IGN, I started using a MacBook for a few years, and I liked it. And I really wanted to like it more because I was like, it would just be much more convenient to just unify all of this shit, because I had an iPad at the time, which I don't really use anymore and stuff like that. So Microsoft Windows, I just think, is an amazing operating system. I think they fuck with it too much and mess around with it too much. I don't know why they feel like they need to keep moving things around and messing with it, but I really was happy to come back to Windows, and I'll always want to use Windows, so I have to give them a shout out. And then a couple other things that I thought would be funny to bring up would be I have a real brand loyalty to Adidas. I wear the same shell toes and have for many, many years. I have probably bought 50 pairs at least of the shoes I wear.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like
I think I've ever owned 50 shoes. It could cumulatively.
Like I would buy. I actually, the dude reached out to me recently, which was funny about something else. But I knew a guy that worked at Adidas corporate, and he gave me a code once to go on their website and get 50% off, or it was something deeper. I think it might have been like 60 or 70% off, like something insane on whatever you want. And I bought like 10 pairs.
That's big.
Of shell toes, and just stored them in my closet.
Nice.
And at that point, I was like, I had so many freshies that I was like, I'm just gonna I was going probably a little too quick through them at that point. But I love Adidas shell toes, stand by them, rock solid shoes, and just the black ones, all black with the white stripes. Everyone knows that if they see me in person. That's something people pick up quickly. And then Mack Weldon. Mack Weldon was a sponsor of the show. I wish they still were. They're not anymore.
They dropped out.
Yeah, they come and go. We have I love our sponsors. We have very solid sponsors, but Mack Weldon's one of those companies where I'm like, I legit love Mack Weldon.
Yeah.
I live in Mack Weldon sweatpants. I live in Mack Weldon underwear. I live in Mack Weldon, shorts and all the rest every day. So I love that company. That company fucking rules. And then I had to give a shout out to a company that's so reliable that they're going to kill everyone else, I think, which is Amazon. I think Amazon's very wise to not ever be. They will not show you how much money you spend without you doing the math yourself. And I think that that's intentional because they don't want you to know.
Oh yeah.
And the reality is that I go on Amazon all of the time, and I'm just buying things left and right, and I'm part of the problem. But they
We
they
all
have me.
are.
They have me hook, line, and sinker, man. They really do. They really do. So, those are the companies I wanted to bring up. I mean, there's a bunch more I can say, but
Yeah.
those are the interesting ones.
I'll give a shout out to Calvin Klein too. I really like
I was going to ask about clothes.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of I have no affinity for brands and clothing as far as like loyalty goes. Like I just don't. I'm more about like, is this comfortable? Okay, like I'll wear it, or does it look cool? Like and generally what I find is like there's a lot of cool things from like a lot of different places. Like I used to like these shoes from like Rockin' Republic, but I don't know if that's even a thing anymore. So like, but I it's not a big deal. But Calvin Klein jackets, I used to make a point. There used to be a Calvin Klein store in the Americana in Glendale that I would go to every like once a year, and I would like try and find like a nice jacket because I really like jackets.
Yeah, me too, Chris.
Like something about, and I don't have a lot of opportunity to wear them in California because it's often hot.
Oh yeah.
Although now it's changing because it's fucking freezing in California. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Hearing this.
Yeah, it's weird as hell in California, the temperature right now. But I like having jackets, and Calvin Klein in my experience just makes like really nice looking, like really simple. And some of the stuff is like so simple. Like it's just like it doesn't even like look particularly amazing, but it's just like, wow, this is comfortable and it's like sleek and it's nice. But that store's gone away, and it's so hard to find clothes in my size in general that like it's kind of a bitch. And I don't like doing Amazon I don't Amazon clothes. I don't. Like I don't do it. I have to be in person to do that.
Yep, I'm the same.
Because it's just never right. It always comes in the box, and then I put it on, and it's wrong. That's wrong.
A problem.
I don't know what is going on. We got to have like a more unified system.
Bro.
Okay, as far as like what sizes mean what, because there's no way that fucking shirt I got was a medium.
Yeah, it's loosey goosey.
I'm depressed now because it's like now that everything is very Amazon and online in terms of just shopping.
Yeah,
I miss the day of the fitting room and the like. I need to know because, like Chris said, like sometimes you see it, you're like, "Oh, that looks cool." It doesn't fit. The size is completely off with your body type, and I get so frustrated.
Yeah, your dimensions are probably complex.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what's fascinating though is like I've noticed thrift stores kind of exploding in the wake of this.
Yes,
because now it's so difficult to find anything that isn't on Amazon that like you might as well go to a thrift store, because otherwise if you go to like an H&M, you're kind of getting the same thing, kind of getting the same shit. Yeah. And I like H&M, by the way. Like they're fine. Like I get a lot of clothes at H&M. I'm pretty sure this shirt is from H&M probably. But if you need anything beyond that, it's just like you're better off going to a thrift store. I found so many cool. I found this Japanese PlayStation shirt, like not the ones you get at like, it wasn't the ones you get at like Walmart or something or like Hot Topic. It was like just genuine, like it wasn't in my size, so I didn't get it because it was like a large or something, but it looked fucking ancient. And I was like, this looks crazy.
Dope. That
this is here. And you find some great shit in thrift shops. I highly recommend actually, like if anybody is curious, go to a thrift shop. Like there's some really interesting shit there.
Oh, it's
there's a lot
so
of
good,
cool electronics too that you find there that like are just abandoned. Dude, I found a Game Gear at a thrift shop for like $15.
That's
they had
a good
idea.
find.
They had no clue what and it was working. It was perfect. Like nothing wrong with it at all. No scratches, no dust, nuts.
Wow.
$15 for the Game Gear. Ridiculous. So I have it just sitting in my closet. I don't.
And then you had to buy 17 AA batteries. So you can
yeah.
That's about 2 hours.
That's the thing. The batteries were $200. That's the thing.
Yeah, you got to get the what is it? The RF pack or whatever.
Yeah.
We'll sell you the Game Gear for $15, and the batteries are $200 a pop.
Right. That's exactly right. I will say though that there are some gaming brands that break me to the degree where, and they're the brands that everyone knows, but they're so seldom visited that I'll buy anything that comes out for them, basically. So like Castlevania is a good example. It's like I go on and on for hours pontificate about how much I hate physical games, and then it's like, oh, Castlevania.
Yeah.
Oh, you got a physical Castlevania game? Okay.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I go on and on about like, oh, I don't want any Castle. It's like, oh, okay, Richter.
Oh, that's
Oh, okay.
Love it.
Yeah, no, that doesn't count. And it's the same thing with these Mega Man toys. I'm going to put them in the I'm putting it in the chat here for you guys if you want to look at them. These are probably the highest quality Mega Man toys that have ever been made, and they're coming out later this year. And I'm like, oh my god,
these are beautiful.
God.
That's
You can click on the
sick.
pictures and look at them.
Oh, that's sick.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be all over that. I don't want anything
articulated. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they really
Full
are.
articulation. That's dope.
They do a
Yeah,
great job of capturing the style of the drawings too.
Hell yeah. I
Wow,
can't wait till they
that's
get
so
to the
cool.
really cool ones. You know,
I love it.
They always have to get through Mega Man 1. It's like, all right, enough.
Let's
Let's get to the like. Let's go to Quick Man. Let's get the Wood Man. Let's
Jump
get the
ahead.
Metal Man. Come on already.
Yeah. You know what I got to say too about that? It's really easy to find PlayStation merch in like stores like Hot Topic and H&M will have them sometimes, and it's really cool. I really like generally PlayStation. I have a shirt that I wear a lot on the show where it's like the symbols and then the PlayStation logo. And I love that shirt.
Yeah,
You
they've
can't find-
done a better job of merchandising than they've ever done. It took them forever to realize that. And
Yeah.
it took them forever for all of them to realize that.
That's odd.
Dude, it's still taking Microsoft forever. I don't know why because dude, some of the stuff they sell on the actual like website, like for like Xbox merch, is like, this is dope as hell.
They've gotten.
Why is
really
this
better.
not like, what are you doing? Why are you hiding this away?
I
It's
also
weird.
think that because I get all those custom made shirts done by my friend or whatever that has a screen printer, and some of the shirts I make, I'm like, this is the Astra Corporation shirt I have is dope. That's from the fake company in Returnal. And I'm like, why don't you make something like this? Like, this is a good idea. That's why I made it. It's probably the only one in existence. I'm making another one with the bad guys from Uncharted 4. They have that triangle logo.
Oh,
or
that's
whatever.
cool.
I got that in high res.
That's a
so
deep
I'm
cut.
gonna put
I
that
like
on
that.
a shirt. Yeah, I want to it's like, come on, man. I'm making I made a Cobra Air Force shirt, with the Cobra logo with the wings on it.
Sick.
Come on,
Super
guys.
sick.
You got to give me that guy's info, by the way.
Yeah, I will. I will.
I want
I'll make that
to.
connection.
I want to do that.
I hate physical games.
Yeah.
There's always
You
exceptions.
and your physical games.
There's always exceptions.
Kyle, I have to go out with a story on
Please.
one of yours, Tropicana. This is
Oh,
when I
yeah.
realized a company could get too big. Because I love Tropicana too. I still do.
Not
But-
Amazon. Tropicana.
Tropicana OJ.
Yeah, right.
And maybe they've been around for so long, right? So even not as big as an Amazon, but maybe because they have this legacy, right?
Yeah. No, I just like that. Your example of like a company that got too big is not Amazon. It's Tropicana.
Because you know what? Though, in all fairness, that's
a
the
civil
default.
war in South America or something?
I live in the Tropicana company town. It's a big house carved out of a giant orange.
It's so delicious. And I loved it even as a kid, right? But I think this was probably 5 years ago. I opened up a fresh half gallon of Tropicana, dumped it into the glass, and a whole green rubber band came out
Yo.
of the juice. And I was like, wait, what?
Scarred. Done.
And
Yeah,
then I'm
that
thinking
sucks.
about, okay, that's probably from the bushel of oranges. How did this make it through? And I called the 1-800 number on the back and got somebody on the phone. And she was so unapologetic. She basically all but said, what do you want me to do about it? Like, that
Yeah.
was the reaction.
I can't unrubber band your orange juice.
I'm sorry, sir.
Things happen. Like, that was her reaction in not so many words. Things happen. And I'm thinking she's going to be super apologetic and maybe, I don't know. She's going to
You
fly
get
me
Tropicana
down,
for
all
life.
expenses paid to the factory. I don't know what I'm thinking. I think all she said was like, I'll send you a coupon for another orange juice type of thing. And that
What
was
is that?
after
Yeah,
a
yeah.
few minutes of, I don't know what I was doing, groveling,
Cajoling.
hoping, had my fingers crossed. I don't know. I
That's so
couldn't believe
crazy.
the reaction was like, I just pictured, we're this giant corporate entity and you're this peon and deal with
Yeah.
it. Like, that was the reaction.
Drink the rubber band, swine. That's crazy.
I love that interaction between you
Sir,
two.
that's an organic rubber band.
That's so, yeah, it's an organ. Yeah. That just got me thinking. Have you ever just overnight kind of heel turned on or like turned on a on a brand, not even necessarily because of something they did, but just because of like I remember I have a very vivid memory of loving Yoo-Hoo when I was a kid. Like I drank Yoo-Hoo like crazy. Like I loved it. On Wednesday in 2000, I don't remember what the fuck. It might not even be the year, but the point is, like, on Wednesday I loved it, and on Thursday I drank it, and I was like, "What the fuck is this garbage that I'm drinking?" Like overnight, I was like, "Is this chocolate water? What the fuck is this?"
Oh, electric milk. That's what it tasted like,
dude.
And I liked
just
it too,
dude. The day before, I loved it. And it wasn't even like it tasted differently. It didn't taste differently at all. I just like suddenly like I woke up. Edge. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a great one for that's a great example of that. I could think of Hawaiian Punch too. Like I loved it as a kid, and then all of a sudden it just dawned on me like this doesn't taste like juice I've ever had before. There's something wrong with this. But I loved it up to that point.
Yeah. It's weird.
It's funny. I was similarly broken. We've talked about it on the show, so I won't get into it. But when I got a moldy Hot Pocket, I used to live on Hot Pockets.
That happened to me too.
I used to live on them. I loved Hot Pockets. I used to eat fucking Hot Pockets all the goddamn time. Dad used to just be like, "That was fine." Get Colin cashews, Hot Pockets, and let him just walk around in his underwear with his comforter, and he'll be totally fine. But then I used to cut them open with a knife on the top to just let the heat out, so because they would just destroy you. There was mold in one of them, so I didn't eat it. But that was the last time I ever had a Hot Pocket. That was probably 24 years ago or something, 23 years ago. I'm not fucking ever having a Hot Pocket again.
Dude, imagine you crumbling down to your knees.
No, because again, when I found my thing, right? I probably would have turned into a Hot Pocket at this point.
I had got severe food poisoning. This is the exact opposite from a Big Mac. It had to be a Big Mac both times. There was no other thing. I got severe, like really bedridden food, and I still eat Big Macs to this day.
That's interesting too, because like that wouldn't like the rubber band of the Tropicana wouldn't phase me.
No.
No. Well, it would phase me in the moment, but like it wouldn't stop me from getting Tropicana again.
Buying it next time, yeah.
Because it's like I'm thinking like, what are the odds of this happening?
Yeah,
probably very low if I've been doing this my whole life and this is the first time I'm seeing it. So like whatever. It's like when like my aunt would be like she would always be like really health conscious and like and I would go into the city a lot and I would get those hot dogs. From like the street vendors because I loved them, the dirty water dogs, we call them. And you get a dirty water dog, and I would eat them, and it's like, don't you know what's in that? And she would just make up a bunch of shit. She doesn't know what's in that. She's just saying a bunch of shit like there's rats in that, or like there's like pig eyes, and it's like I've already had so many of these.
Right. What
is the difference? Like I've been eating them for this long. If there's rat anuses in this, if there's like fucking like children's eyes in this, like I've been eating it this whole time. So it's over. I've been eating it this whole time. I'm not sick and I like it. So I'm eating it.
Right.
It's knowing what's in. It's not going to change. If it's
that's
the
what
worst
a
shit
cannibal
ever
says the first time when it's like you're in.
You're done. It's over.
Yeah.
And I still love those, by the way. I went super recently the other day. When in the city, got another dirty water dog. I don't know what the fuck's in that.
So good.
I don't care.
That's good shit. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. You know, like it's the same. McDonald's burger has been frozen for a year by the time you eat. I'm like, I don't care.
It just
it's so good.
Yeah, what is it, the pink sludge or whatever that was like around.
Right.
It's like that's pink sludge. That's your chicken nuggets. Like,
I don't know. It tastes good.
Okay.
I didn't. It didn't break me either because what was that big documentary on McDonald's?
Oh, Super Size Me.
Super Size Me. And he just ate nothing but McDonald's.
Yeah,
and it still didn't break.
That is such a ridiculous premise too, because it's like, of course, if you eat the same exact thing every single day, of course you're gonna get sick. Mm-hmm. Like that's anything. I would imagine.
Hold on a sec.
Anything that isn't just lettuce, and even that's probably gonna make you just like anemic.
It's true, right? Exactly. Cog, I watched that documentary and read Eric Schlosser's Fast Food Nation at the same time, and swore off fast food for about a day and a half. And then I was right back.
Dude, no question, it's bad for you.
No question.
No question. But I'm all right with that. As long as it's not like you shouldn't be eating it like every meal every day. That's insane. And at that point, that you're the author of your own demise with that.
Exactly
shit.
Right.
But like. gonna sweat it if like every once in a while I want, you know what? It's 2 a.m. I want 40 chicken nuggets.
You reserve the right.
I've earned the right to have 40 chicken nuggets. God damn it!
Hell yeah, this is America.
I looked this up just to make sure before I said it, that the Morgan Spurlock thing with Super Size Me, I don't know if you guys have read this since, that he basically has since admitted that he was an alcoholic during this time.
Oh yeah, obviously. He's
so
eating McDonald's 24/7. Of course he's an alcoholic.
But that like that level of alcoholism bleeds into like he's not just eating McDonald's, like he's also binging.
My fatty liver was from the whiskey.
Right. So I'm not saying McDonald's is good for you. It's definitely not good for you. But I also think eating McDonald's is completely irrelevant if you just do it once in a while. I don't think it has any.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I don't think it has any meaningful
moderation.
Moderation. People are way too crazy about that stuff.
Yeah, moderation.
All right. I'll wrap up with my topic. It's a quick one. I'll be curious to see what you guys think of it. I think this is fairly funny. Maybe you'll find it funny or whatever. So I wanted to ask you guys about something that you didn't know, that you found out that you couldn't believe you didn't know was true. So I'll give you an example. And this happened to me recently. This is why I bring it up. I watch random ass documentaries and things on YouTube, just about whatever. And I was watching this dude that owns an avocado farm. All right. And he's growing avocado trees. And he's growing these little sprouts. And then he's like, okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to cut the sprout at the base of it and just cut it down. And then you're going to cut a line in it. And then you're going to shove a branch into the top of the tree, the dead tree. And then it's going to grow into a new tree based on like using the root system of the old tree and the behavior of the tree in which you took the branch off of it. This is called grafting. And it's a very common thing in agriculture. And I had no fucking idea that was possible. I'm literally talking about just they grow these trees, they cut them down to like where there's nothing left, cut a little slit in them, fit it together, like so that the circumferences are similar, and then just tie them together and the tree grows.
That's fascinating.
And I was like, how the fuck did I not know that was possible? I like sat up in bed. I'm like, what? Like, it wasn't important. It didn't matter that I knew this. I just couldn't believe that I didn't know that that's what they did. That the way you get trees to behave like the way you want them to is not. I thought that this was happening in like a lab for some reason. Like they're splicing fucking genes, and I'm sure that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah,
too,
they're splicing
really,
genes, and then they just plant like a new tree with the spliced seeds or whatever. Yeah,
right, exactly. But what they're really doing is just finding like a tree that they're like, oh, this is a pretty good tree, and then they just take a branch off of it, cut another tree down, and then just shove the fucking branch on top of the tree.
Wow,
and it grows.
That
sounds like Grim Fandango logic, like a puzzle game. Like, oh, just like shove the branch in the tree to grow a new tree. Like it sounds like a simplified version of what reality is.
Yeah, it's like
even
crazy.
Though it's
like
real.
The top of the tree is called the scion, I think, the SCION, and the bottom I think is called the root stock.
It's all video game shit.
It's crazy. And so they were what the guy was saying, and I was like, I was sitting up, I was like,
take out the scions
because what he was saying was you can grow an avocado from a seed, even an avocado seed that comes from a good tree. And he's like, the outcome of that seed is unknown.
Okay.
So he's like, you could get an amazing tree out of it with great fruit. You can get the shittiest tree out of it. It doesn't matter. The best way to guarantee like behavior is to literally just lop off a piece of the other tree and shove it into the base of the new tree.
It's violent.
It's just crazy. It says here, grafting or graftage is the horticultural technique whereby tissues of plants are joined so as to continue their growth together. The upper part of the combined plant is called the scion, while the lower part is called the rootstock. The success of this joining requires that the vascular tissue grow together. The natural equivalent of this process is something called inoculation. The technique is most commonly used in asexual propagation of commercially grown plants for the horticultural and agricultural trades. Grafting is the act of joining two plants together.
If this is so easy, why are avocados so expensive?
It's a good point.
Son of a bitches.
It's just so interesting. It's not that that's like important. I just couldn't believe I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
I'm 38 years old. I'm like, why didn't I know? I literally thought and I'm sure this happens. Like, I thought when they were talking about grafting and all this, it's like, yeah, they're doing something in a lab. I think of a guy with a fucking petri dish, and he's got some different chemicals, and I don't know. I have no idea. So I just couldn't. I don't know if you have anything that you wanted to share that was similar, but it's almost a confession because I literally sat up as if someone solved the mystery of life.
Kyle, when you hear mine personally, you're going to be so relieved that yours, nobody knew this.
All right. Well, you go ahead, Dick. Talk to me about yours.
All right. I have 4 of them, and we can rattle them off pretty quick. These are going to be embarrassing, but I'm just going to be open with you guys about it. You know that animal that that unicorn whale called the narwhal? Yeah. I found out that was a real thing about 6 months ago. I knew nature was weird, but I always just thought like, oh yeah, that's a Pokemon thing. Like,
I can see that.
Yeah. Then I think it came up because my son did a report on it, and I maintain that thing was fake and he should do something else for like the better part of like a day. And I was like, I don't think that's real great. I think that's like a Adventure Time character or something. No, apparently this crazy whale with the unicorn horn is real. I had no friggin' clue. And you know what? It's funny. It's a great topic, Kyle. I feel like there could be a multi-parter because I deal with this shit every day. I'll end with the one I think is funniest, but the narwhal one was a big one. The other one, and being a car guy, I was embarrassed about this. Maybe this is one you guys don't know about, but I was fascinated. And apparently this has been a thing for decades. So on the dashboard of almost every car, apparently, by your gas gauge, there's a little arrow telling you which side you're to fill up your car on. So if your gas tank hatch is on the passenger side or the driver's side, it's indicated on your dashboard with a little arrow icon. I never knew this. I never knew that the manufacturer put that on there to correspond, because there's really no rhyme or reason to which side the gas tank of a car's on. It's really strange. It could even change from model year to model year, but I never knew that. That was one that I figured a lot of people might not know. The third one, I'm obsessed with logos. We've talked about that on the show before, and I go into logos all the time and secret meaning and hidden images and logos and stuff. That I always think I'm done. Like I know all of them now. And the other day, someone pointed out to me, just a random person I was with in the car. Was it my mother-in-law? I'm not even sure, but she was like, check out the Goodwill logo. It's that cute little half a smiley face, and it says Goodwill at the bottom. In that smiley face, the negative space formed in between the nose and the mouth is a G. It's a lowercase g. I never knew that before. I was like, holy shit, I've been looking at that logo for years, and there's that hidden little lowercase g in there. Loved it. Here's the last one, which is hilarious, and it's because it's a fight I've been having with Helene for years, and it's on tipping in restaurants. Ooh. Not a math guy, okay? So every time I go to tip the waitress, I pick up the iPhone. Siri, what's 20%? What's 20% of 80 or whatever? And Helene gets so mad. I have to do it, but she always sees me doing it, and she's like, she's been saying this. I'm literally not exaggerating, for over 10 years now. Just carry the decimal point one place to the left and double that number. That's right. A 20% tip.
That's 20% to the T.
To a T. She's been in my ear for this for years, and I just couldn't hear it. Like, I just didn't want to hear it. It was stubborn. I did whatever. And then I saw somebody talk about it on a YouTube video the other day, and I was like, oh. And she was like, yeah, I've been saying this, Dagan, for literally since we've been probably going out. 27 years, maybe not, but give it at least 15 years. She's been like, why can't you just listen to me? Stop asking Siri what the thing is. And then, it just took me listening to somebody else say it, and then it clicked. And I was like, oh, that's all it is or whatever. And that works. I never knew that. I never knew, even though she was telling me this for ever.
I dated a waitress in college that taught me that.
I love that trick.
And it's nothing really crazy. It's just like, I have always used that ever since. I'm like, yeah, it works. It's totally it is 20%.
So
it's not like something like 20%.
Yeah, literally.
Cog, does anything come to mind for you?
Yeah, one recent funny one, and Dagan, you'll appreciate it, because for whatever reason, I just struggled adapting in the music era to the streaming service. Even though I'm a Game Pass guy, I really struggled, because I come from, the Walkman, the iTouch, the iPlayer, iPhone, that kind of thing, iPod. So even though, Colin, I'm an Android guy, the one device was my sacred device, was the iTouch. The iTouch was my haven because it did exactly what I need. You just store my music. I go on to the, Apple Store, and I still don't do like Apple Music. I would literally buy video game music tracks. I'm giving cash. King laughs at me. He's like, bro, you have a subscription to Amazon Prime. You have all this stuff. Why are you still buying music? What is wrong with you? And I'm like, I just have to. I'm supporting the developer. Like I couldn't shake it, right? So obviously recently, I did the whole Summer Game Fest in Cali. I always take my iTouch, everything. Somehow I lost my iTouch last week. I'm in the gym. I'm devastated. Y'all see what I do. My health is wealth. I always have. It's me taking a phone of my Android of my iTouch on the treadmill or whatever. The iTouch is my sacred thing. So I'm like, yo, what I'm going to do? I'm like, all right, Panic Cog, just go get a new iTouch. You good. Bro, I had no idea how much of a time capsule when they discontinued the iTouch like a while ago. And I'm like,
a long time ago, man.
Bro, I am distraught. I'm like, when did this happen? And I'm like, okay, so what's the equivalent? And there's like no equivalent. It's like this big iPad thing. It's really big and doofy because the iTouch was like small, sleek, like an iPhone. But they were like, no one utilizes this. They did their metrics. It was a dying thing. Bro, I had no idea the iTouch was just.
You could probably find a used one. That's your best bet.
I literally went to eBay and found some distributor who still has them, and I was like, "Oh, thank God!" Because I had like a 256 gig one. Like I had like all the trimming. So yeah, I was embarrassed to know that was one. Another quick one. When I was younger,
love that.
I didn't know because this is polite cog. You go to a restaurant, you order food, and I'm always very cognizant of the waitress and, of being nice. I never knew that, like, sometimes you just get a bad meal. It's just like, or whatever. Something was off. Something was wrong. I never knew you could be like, nah, you gotta have to send this back. People, but like my best friend was like, bro, what's wrong with you? This is terrible. Like, why are we eating this? No, it's all right. Send it back, bro. Like, I never knew that when I was younger, that you could literally request to send something back that you are dissatisfied with the service.
Oh, yeah.
The last one is more recent, and that is, obviously, I told you about the diverticulitis. So during the problem-solving phase, stomach's hurting, Colin, I'm like, why am I the pain is so bad, it's waking me up out of my sleep. You know what I mean? So I know you can relate because you talked about IBS. So I'm like, what's going on? And I'm from the era, my mom would always say, stomach upset, ginger ale or something carbonated, soda, settle your stomach. I'm pounding ginger ale. This thing is working. This thing is not going away. So after a while of a couple of days of this, and I'm like, kind of research, try to see what I have. And I said, you know what? And a person who I think, like myself, drinks a lot of water, I realized I don't truly drink enough water. And I realized the requirements and then how helpful water is as like a natural healer to my condition.
Yeah.
I did not realize the significance of water intake and how it helps with my condition as far as I have to be graphic, flushing things out and utilizing more fiber to help flush things out. So,
I'm going to take a little drink right now just to make sure I'm drinking.
Send it up.
And I drank water, but they were like, no, you got to have like, 75 ounces or whatever it is. I'm like, God damn, that's like 20. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's like you got to drink like liters of water.
Bro,
I'm peeing all of the time, dude. I'm peeing all the time.
All the time. So that's what I didn't realize, like how significant water is. Like it truly is for my condition and just in general for good health. So
yeah, for good digestion, like you realize it's not to get gross, but like if you have like hard poop, you're dehydrated.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with my condition, it roughs up the intestines going through. Thus, you get diverticular, and that's what starts the condition.
Oh.
So you have to have water. You have fiber, but you have the water to kind of break it down so everything is easier going through and allows things to heal inside. So I learned so much of how important water truly is.
Yeah, it is crazy, especially because you're athletic. And I'm the same way. Micah has to remind me sometimes. She's like, my antidepressants make me sweat. Like I made fun of it at the show in Houston, like a whore in church, dude. Like, well, I was not much of a sweater, and now like I hit a bar and I'm just like drenched. When I get off the elliptical after an hour, I'm soaked, just soaking wet. And she reminds me sometimes, she's like, you got to like replenish that and do something about that. So I try to be mindful of that. Sometimes I don't drink enough, but usually I am cognizant of that in some way. But it's always good to be mindful of that. I need to be better about that too, because water's boring, you know.
Boring.
It's boring.
So
It
boring.
is boring.
Excruciating.
And my struggle, Colin, I think you said it best with how you do the Pepsi or the Coke with me.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle with water and a meal. I think that's so boring.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have some type of flavor
Yeah.
and taste.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
Water,
Absolutely.
water is for this.
Right, exactly. Water, like when it's like, have a cheeseburger and fries and water. What? You fucking
Like a
crazy? That's
Victorian
like,
child.
yeah, it's like you can have a vanilla milkshake, you can have a beer, you can have a Coke. I mean, there's a million things you would have with a burger before water. Get out of here.
You guys enjoy your youth, including you, Cog, because you are younger than me. I can't even drink anything except water. Like I'm like, San Pellegrino has a little salt in it. All right, like that's my treat. It's like ridiculous.
Oh man, yeah, I'm getting there, man. I totally understand.
Chris, is there anything that comes to mind for you in this vein?
This is one of the things where it's like really difficult to kind of parse through my brain and find these moments, because either they happen so infrequently to me, or they happen so frequently to me that it's embarrassing, and I just shove them away. I talked about one in like an older episode of Sacred Symbols, but for some reason, and I don't know why this would be told to me, but some adult at some point when I was young told me that New Zealand is where Iceland is, like by Europe. And like, I just believed it, because why would an adult lie to me about that?
It's so
That's
easy
such a
to poison
specific-
a child.
That's such a specific lie. And so I grew up, I never thought about it. I never questioned it. And obviously, like when you're doing world maps, like New Zealand doesn't really come up all that often. Or like even Iceland, really. Like you just kind of learn about America. And even world history is like a very kind of like blanket kind of thing. So it never really came up. I never had to place New Zealand on a map in school or anything. And so like I was like 25, like still assuming that's where like New Zealand was, or like 23 or something. And then I remember specifically watching, I think it was Hunt for the Wilder People, or like some Taika Waititi movie. And he's a New Zealand, he's a Kiwi director. He's a lot of people in his movies have that accent. And I was like, man, it's amazing how like close to Australia that accent sounds, even though it's way far. And then the first time I was like, what? What are you talking about? I was like, what? They're really far, right? And he was like, no, they're next to each other. And I was like, what are you, why did I think this and why did nobody tell me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, it's just a weird lapse in just like, I never came across a situation that would have taught me that that was wrong. And this guy just either lied to me or was stupid and just didn't know, which is probably like the more likelihood, but
Right.
more likely example, he probably just genuinely didn't know where New Zealand was. But then he was just so confident in like assuming he did. So, and I was a child, so I trusted it. And there was another thing, I guess more recently, this is a little bit of a simpler one, but with, as far as like CDs go, when a CD was scratched, I thought that was it. Like it's over. And I would see those like little cleaning kits in stores. It's like, get your CD back to maximum. But it always sounded to me like a fucking like a sham wow type. Like that doesn't fucking like there's no way that like why would that work? Everybody would have one of these if it works. And nobody I knew had those things. Like nobody I knew had a CD buffer. And I always assumed that the data was on the surface of the CD. And then like I learned like in the last couple months, maybe like the last year, that like, no, those are real. The data is underneath the plastic of the CD. And that's why you can buff the scratches out and not lose any data. Like I assumed like if you scratch the data of the CD, that data was gone. Like how are you going to replicate that data? It's the CD. But it's literally just a screen over what the real data is.
Yeah, I don't think I
And
knew
the
that.
only time a CD is really, really damaged is if it's like a really deep scratch that gets through the plastic and into the actual data.
Yeah,
I had
gouge.
no idea.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel like I should have known. Yeah. And I had so many opportunities to just trust a product on a shelf to trust that it like, oh, that does what it says it does. And I was just so used to being scammed because you're always like on the lookout, especially if you, I don't know, like, man, like in the Bronx, like there's always these fucking, there are these little, almost like fake flea markets that are set up outside. Like I remember specifically on Meshulah by Gun Hill Road, there were all these people with like these bullshit. Just all this fake shit that just clearly didn't work. And that's where I grew up. So like when I see like, this will make your CD perfectly new again. Your PlayStation games will work great. Oh, no fucking way. What do you say for $15? For $20? Yeah, okay. I just didn't trust it.
Facts. So true.
But I'm sure there's like a million more. This happens to me constantly, honestly. Like as I'm talking, I remember the specific feeling that this topic evokes, but like there's so many specific. One more specific example that I think Cog would appreciate. Because it's a Destiny related one. I never realized that in the little weapon icons that if it's a primary weapon, it leans up and to the left. I had no fucking idea. I always had to go into the inventory to see like, oh, is that a primary or secondary? And I was just like, if you just glance at it, it's like, oh, you could just tell by the orientation of the gun. And I was like, oh, that's so. But the game never says that. It's just sort of implicit, and you just don't think about it. And there's like a million of these. Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's 1,000 that are going to happen to me in the next like couple months.
That's the worst part. Like I know I'm going to have these epiphanies over the next. It's just going to keep happening. But it bothers me that there's like a dozen right now that I'm afflicted by. I don't even know about yet. The in-game ones are. That's strange that you say that, Chris, because almost every modern game I play, I have that epiphany moment where 3/4 of the way in, I didn't understand something very basic, not essential, but just basic.
I gotta jump in. We got a thought going. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, I played the entire game not knowing that, how you do you got Cure and then it's like Cura. So I would unlock all these materials of the higher end version, but I didn't know that the D-pad, all you had to do was just move it to the right to unlock to utilize it in combat. So I'm using basic Cure fighting Sephiroth, and literally every 5 seconds I'm curing the whole team because I'm like, oh my God, I gotta stay alive. I made it. Attic laughed at me. He said, "You made that game like a Dark Souls situation."
Yeah, hard as hell,
right. He said, "Bro, press the directional pad to the right to get the stronger versions of the magic that you have." I'm like, I didn't know. I thought it was by default. It was going to use
every game. I do something like this.
That's awesome. Yeah, a lot of things are lost on me too. I've said before that I played Civilization 4 and 5 and 6 without really understanding the game. I mean, like it wasn't until I watched these not even documentaries, like tutorials, like 2, 3, 4 hour tutorials on YouTube where I'm like, oh, like there's so much to the game. I have no idea what the hell I'm really doing. I was just playing it kind of freewheeling, not even getting half of it. But Chris, your story reminded me too of maybe not as egregious, but similar, where I had no fucking clue that Bermuda was where it was.
Oh,
I thought Bermuda was in the Caribbean for most of my life until probably like my mid-20s or something.
It sounds like a place that's in the Caribbean.
Yeah, it's like off the coast of the United States. It's like way far into the Atlantic Ocean.
Off the coast of North Carolina, right?
So it's funny to find those things out. But I agree with you. If you sat and thought about it even more, we would all discover those things we should be be embarrassed about.
Yeah, especially games. Like that's like a whole. Like I'm sure there's a million games I played wrong. Like I remember, like I love Shadow of the Colossus, right? And I remember beating that game. I had no fucking clue about the lizards.
Oh, really?
The lizards that, give you more stamina so that you can, more effectively fight the things that you're supposed to fight.
You don't need them.
You don't need them, but it becomes a lot easier when you have those like that. Dude, that game was so difficult for me because I beat the entire game with base stamina. With like base stats. I had no clue. It didn't seem like a game that had anything like that. Like it seemed like a boss rush game. Like you go and you fight and that's it. Like there's no
very direct
pause menu, there's no inventory, there's no upgrade screen. So like why would I assume that and it's also it leans into that puzzle game logic or that point and click logic where it's like, yeah, if you kill the lizard, your stamina goes up. It's like, why would I make that connection at all?
And you have to type in lizard. L-I-Z-A-R-D.
Yeah, it's crazy. But like, yeah, there's a million. I'm sure there's a million of those. I would bet a lot of money that I was probably doing the same thing as you were in Final Fantasy VII. I was like, why is this game so fucking hard?
So hard.
Because now that you're saying that, I'm thinking about it like,
It makes me feel so much better that veteran gamers that go through that, because every game I have this egregious moment where I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Like, get out of the Super Nintendo age already, Dagan. Like,
no, the games are. I think games are too deep.
Yeah.
You know, some deep modern games. I think a game should be as deep as it wants to be, but modern games on the mass market feel like they need to be unnecessarily deep. I felt like God of War Ragnarok was a really good example of that. Like, why are there so much equipment options in this game? We don't need this in God of War. What is this? And then it confuses me and makes me feel stupid. But all right, let's get the hell out of here, guys. It was good to talk to you today. Appreciate it, you guys. Let's go around the horn, say goodbye to everyone. Cog, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, very fun. That was probably one of my favorites. We had a lot of good ones. This was probably it's about all time right now. It's
awesome.
all time
Appreciate
selling
that.
right now.
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, thanks for taking the time, my friend. Have a good weekend.
of course, you too.
Dagan, thank you for your time, my friend.
Proud to be part of this crew. I'm going to meet your other son right now. Dustin and Philly.
Yep.
We're going to too many games.
Yeah, that's
Have a little dinner.
Oh, cool. You guys are meeting up for dinner. That's exciting.
Meet a couple of people. Yeah,
Cool.
we got to go have some din.
Yeah.
I think tomorrow's the panel, but today I'm just going to shoot over and check it out and buy a couple of things, and we'll see what happens.
Cool, man. Have fun. Have a good time. I'm going to get back to Final Fantasy 16. I played it for like 3 hours or so. It is fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is really, really awesome. I'm shocked. And I said this and I can't wait to get into this in the spoiler cast, but I see a lot of shades of Final Fantasy 4 in this game. Like, thematically, lots of shades of it.
So cool.
So it reminds me a little bit of what I think Final Fantasy 4 would have looked like if we had something like this today. You know, it's pretty cool. So can't wait to get back to that this weekend. But hope everyone enjoyed our episode. Thank you for your love, kindness, and support on Patreon and free feeds alike. Merch, laststandmedia.store, patreon.com/laststandmedia for early ad-free access. We'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye. Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, Dagan Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman, and is edited by associate producer, Ben Smith. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.